Hi everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Mr. Godwin.
Okay. You guys don't want to show me your faces, eh?
I'm in my store and it's kind of dark, so I might have to like go back to make my video.
I want to see people. People cannot be. I mean, you can put your video on, but for those of you in noisy places, you can turn off your sound.
Okay.
Okay. So we're waiting for more people to join. We are meant to have about 21 people in this class.
I'm at work.
Luther,
What do you want? I'm at work. So what do you want? Want anything? One street.
all right, everybody got the outline, Abi? So somebody has already sent me a few questions. Someone already sent me a few questions, but we'll go to those questions after the class, just so that we're not derailed from what we're trying to do. So I'm gonna paste the class program on the comment section, just so that we can use it as a reference as we go along. In case I decide to jump a topic, you guys can say, "Oh, okay, you have missed something." Yeah. Okay. So we're going to start with the definition, management definitions, roles. One of the things that a lot of people have done that I have noticed is that nobody really defines management from the different phases that it operates from. So you will have people saying things like, management is when you manage an artist, you create opportunities for the artist, you find business for the artist, you follow the artist. There are all sorts of things people say. Okay, 1 second before we start. Timothy is saying he can't get in, but I just accepted Timothy, so I'm lost. Sorry guys, no, we're not leaving any soldier behind, but I believe I just accepted Timothy. All right, Luther will help him sort that out. Anyway, so people like to do all these different definitions of management, and there's always that, you know, misconception about what a talent manager is. Also, there are times when the definition of a manager or the role of a manager may be defined interchangeably with HR managers, or talent managers from businesses, but it's best to separate it, even if there are similarities in the roles, right? So one of the things I like to, how I define talent managers is very, very straightforward, very, I like to define a manager as somebody who does business development. So let me explain, let me break down those two different things. The role of the manager in the 21st century has changed from what it was years ago. So a few years ago, if you found a record deal for your artist, you are a winner. Everybody's your friend. You're an amazing person. You've done the work. You've done most of the work. Finding a label that can cover the cost, ensure that your artist can tour, all those things. Labels will bear those costs. But as time has gone by, that concept of management has changed. That idea of management has changed because with the introduction of social media, for example, managers can, what's the word? Artists can exist independently of of a label, right? We've seen multiple artists do it where they create a career for themselves and they don't necessarily need any label to do that for themselves. There are many people that are doing that, from Chance the Rapper to I believe Ross is doing that, to uh, Post Malone and a bunch of people. So now they have distribution deals with labels as opposed to record deals. So they keep 100% of their rights and their ownership. Now, because the manager's role has changed, you have to also define it differently from how you've always defined it. It's no longer about finding a deal anymore because the tools and resources are available to do this yourself. One second, guys. People are still complaining in the group. That's why I said we should sort this out early so I don't have to do this during class. Okay. All right. So what is the new role of the manager? The new role of the manager is business development. So let's break that down. Business development involves finding or creating opportunities for your talent and then generating revenue from the opportunities you find or create. So I'm echoing on somebody's video. Anyway, so finding, one side is finding or creating opportunities, and the other side is generating revenue from those opportunities you create. Thomas, I think that was you. Can you mute your mic, please? Thomas, can you hear me? Okay. Anyway, Thomas, help us mute your mic. Mute your mic. Oh, thank you very much. All right. So as I was saying, so the role of the manager has shifted from finding a label for the artist to creating or finding opportunities and generating revenue from those opportunities. That is the basic definition of business development for a brand or for an artist or a talent or whatever it is, right? And we'll look at a few ways that we do that. Now, what are the roles and the functions of a talent manager? Now, there are many um, ways to sort of address this question, but we're going to look at about four major things that the manager does. Now, when you define the manager from the multiple roles that he plays, because the manager is the one who oversees the manager is your general manager or your MD of your company. So if the artist is the business or the company, the manager is the managing director. He's the guy who ensures everything works smoothly for us to achieve the goal that we have. So as an MD, you need to have an overall view of what's going on in the business, from what PR is doing down to what how you're hiring staff, which is an HR role, down to sometimes you actually getting off and doing the actual job. So the CEO of any business not only coordinates that business, but he also finds opportunities so that the business can grow, right? So there is a multitude of things because of how business has changed for the music industry. The manager's role can be many different things, and you have to be able to define it, which we will discuss when we get to contracts, right? Importance of defining your role and what you're doing for that artist based on your agreements or based on resources available, based on the other people's jobs, right? So if you start a career of an artist, your job is to help that artist grow, right? So that means there will be certain jobs that are not yours that you would have to do, or roles you would have to fill, so that you guys can get to the point where you can actually afford to hire people to handle those roles. Yeah. So let's look at the first role of a manager: planning. Now, planning for a manager is essential. The entire idea behind being the person who runs the show is that you're able to see the future. You're able to create a vision that is in line with the artist's vision for their career or the talent's vision for his or her career. And it's important that you understand how planning should work. Now, with with the with how we currently do business, it is essential that if you're going to be like, that's why at the end we're also going to look at writing proposals and writing business plans, because of how important that is to actually creating a plan, right? So if you're going to be speaking to an investor or speaking to a label, or even if it's a business that you're going into an agreement with, one of the things that are very essential is that you should be able to show them where you can go and how successful that business can be, so that it entices the investor. That's what you do in business. It's not only a music thing. And when I say a lot of these things, people are like, but this is business. And I'm like, exactly. Talent management is not a hobby, right? As most people think it is. You follow artists everywhere, you party, everybody will be happy with you. You know, you go to club, all of you are hanging out. There are babes or guys. You know, that is a byproduct of the work you do, but that's not the work you do. There are oil and gas people that go to the same clubs and carry the same babes and drink the same champagne, right? But what you see is the ability to afford those things because they've worked, right? So I work in an oil company, I earn a salary, therefore I can afford to do this. It's the same thing, whether it's construction, banking, whatever it is. So it's the issue isn't that we see babes. The issue is that we are the most televised doing it. Does that make any sense? We're the ones that are on TV the most doing it. It doesn't mean that we're the only ones doing it. So it's important to understand that it's a business. So first, once we address that, it's easy to now add all these other things. So planning involves looking into the future, identifying those situations, and finding the best ways to actually activate those things as you go along. There's a part um, of my ebook series where I'm talking about the importance of um, identifying the artist traits, right? So it's not out yet, so you won't find it in any of the books yet. It's the one of the books coming, and it's called the special ingredient. And the special ingredient in any artist planning is the artist. You cannot create a plan for Wande Co and use that same plan for KC, right? And I'll give you an example. KC loves radio promo. He loves to go to radio. He enjoys it. As a matter of fact, he will buy TV for OAPs and radio stations. He enjoys it. Wande Co doesn't. Wande Co does not want to go anywhere. He wants to make his music, release his music, and live his life, right? Perform his shows, live his life. So those are two different personalities that you have to consider when you're creating your plan. So you can't say because Casey likes to do radio and radio is good, then that means that when I'm creating a plan for Wande Co, Wande should do radio as well. So you have to ensure that those things are put in place. So I'll give you, for you guys, because you're registering for my program, I'll give you an advanced information about the book that is coming, right? So there are three in your planning. There are three major things you must consider. The first thing is the artist, right? That's the person. Or when you've finalized with the artist, rather, the first thing is the music. It starts and ends with the music. The music is what says this is our target audience. The music is what says this is the kind of producer we need. The music is what says this is the A&R we need. The music is what directs the entire process. It's the music that says this is how we're going to engage people. So it starts with the music. Then the artist, right? The artist is the one that says, okay, based on how this artist behaves, this is how we're going to facilitate these plans or these actions. These are the ways we're going to do X, Y, Z. If the artist doesn't like going around people, how do we find a way that he does it only once? Instead of doing 10 radio interviews, how do we do 5, right? And how do we ensure that these 5 are the top 5 that will seep into the rest? Sorry about that, guys. IPNX, which is the best internet service that I know, has been trying to mess with me. So I went and got MTN and loaded it. I'm ready for them. Um, so the goal for me is how do we find a way that the artist himself can identify. You can identify, okay, this is the artist temperament. This is who the artist is, right? If you know that your artist is an asshole, for example, naturally an asshole, not a very good person, right? You want to limit his engagement with people that can help facilitate or fast track his career. Media, brands, as much as you can, you want to limit that engagement so that you can manage situations properly, right? So you don't want your artist pissing off radio people because that affects opportunities to get uh, interviews or get the music played. You don't want him pissing off brands because that, so you want to, once you identify the kind of person your artist is, and trust me, not every artist is a great guy, right? So let us just get that out of the way. I know you will love your artist, you support him, but deep down, you know the people that are not very good people. And sometimes good people do bad things, right? So that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are people that are genuinely horrible people, right? So that's a personal trait. What you want to focus on is the business, right? Because one of the things I always tell managers is in developing a plan, one of the things you must learn is that you cannot think emotionally. Your artist is thinking emotionally. creative people mostly think emotionally. You are the business person, and you need to learn to remove your emotions from the situation and focus on the job, because the work of a manager can be a slightly embarrassing job. There are times when your artist will speak to you in certain ways that you'll be telling yourself, my mama never follow me talk like this, all this nonsense. My papa never follow me talk like this. You know what I mean? And you don't want to get yourself into that space where you are emotionally attached to the situation, that you're reacting to everything that happens, right? So you have to identify the temperament of the artist and the type of person that they are. Now, the third thing you must identify in your plan is the audience. Who are the people that will listen to this kind of music? Who are the guys that we're targeting, right? Because the music gets you in the system. This is something you must remember. The music gets your artist, you get your client into the system. Because if the music is great, people love it. Abi, the music gets your artist into the system. Your artist is the one that stays in the system. So how you brand your artist, how you, as I said, avoid situations that will create problems for your business. How you do that will keep the artist in the business. The audience are the people that generate the income for the artist. So these three elements are really the most important things when you're developing your plan. It's important that you're able to identify these three things as you go along. Now, the next phase is organizing. So you've planned this whole thing. What you want to now do is organize and figure out who are the people that are needed for this thing to work. Who are the people that are essential for the growth, or for us to deliver this whole plan that we've had. So this is where your lawyer comes in. This is where your PR people come in. And as a manager, you should be able to check those things. You should be able to see, okay, I see this. What question should I be asking my PR company? I'll give you guys an example. When I started managing SDC, there was a PR company that was working. And I remember asking them when I came in as manager, even if there was a prior relationship with them, I asked a bunch of questions that the PR company couldn't answer. And so I came in as manager working with a PR company, and I fired the PR company because they couldn't provide clear path PR related. Like, I don't need you as PR to create the plan for an artist. This is another mistake people make. People take an artist and go to a PR company and expect the PR company to plan for them, to help them develop a plan. That's not going to work. It is your job as a manager to create a plan for the artist. What PR does is they take your plan and then they create a perception around your plan and help you amplify that perception. So the PR people's job is, how do I ensure that public opinion, which is why it's called public relations, how do I ensure public opinion is on the side of my client? How do I ensure that they see my client a certain way? They believe about him the certain way. That's why sometimes they tell you never meet your heroes, because sometimes it's PR at work. Right? So sometimes a lot of work has been put into ensuring that you see the person in a certain light, and then you now realize that when you meet this person is such a dickhead. So it's important that you're able to clearly find PR companies that can do that. Now, what most PR companies do in Nigeria is media relations. Media relations is basically interaction with media, right? Now, part of PR is media relations. So that's just one part of it. PR also does conflict resolution, crisis management. There's a bunch of things PR does, but it is important that they're able to do all of it, including media relations, because it's media that amplifies. So they craft the perception, right? And then they hand it over to the right media to amplify to the general public. That's what PR does. PR doesn't create the artist plan. So don't take your planning to PR. So as a manager, you need to understand the roles that these different businesses play so that you can then utilize that, right? And use it to say, okay, I see what you are doing. I see what you're trying to achieve. Fantastic. Let us work together to make it work. Not, oh, I don't even know what you're doing. You've carried problem to come and give me, which is the reason why most PR companies just copy and paste their plan. Oh yeah, we have contacts in the following 5 states. This is where we're going to distribute your music. There are some songs that you shouldn't put in the north because nobody will listen. You should allow it organically grow into those spaces. There are some songs that you shouldn't put on Niger FM. You should be on Smooth FM. There are songs that, because it will seep in, but you need to find your target audience first and market. And PR should be able to advise you to do that. Am I making any sense, guys? Okay. Now, so after you've organized, the next phase is after you've organized, the next phase is to lead and direct. Now, the reason why most managers, this is even answering the question someone asked me via email, that how do you get respect from people? The way you get respect from people is by doing the work. There was a time in my career when I thought that branding was what I needed to succeed. Right? I believed that I needed to brand myself. I needed to, I did my logo, which is nice, right? But the branding didn't get me anywhere. What got me through was my work, right? People remember the work I do. And it is that work that gives me more work. It's that work that people are like, okay, you know what? You look like person will be saying, you know, go fit enter Lungu, but then go enter if you need to, right? He looks like somebody who doesn't understand XYZ, but his work says something else. So it doesn't matter the branding I do, it doesn't matter the wristwatch I wear. The fact is, when you need a job done, you will call me. So in leading, you have to actually work. You can't, leadership, one of the mistakes we've made with what we say leadership is that we have turned leadership into an enjoyment. Leadership is now a thing of, if I'm the person leading, then I should be the person enjoying the most. No, that enjoyment is a byproduct as well of leadership. People give you things because you lead them, because they know that if anything happens, you're in front. So they try to ensure that you are in a good place. It's just like getting a fantastic employee. When you have a fantastic employee, you do everything you can to keep that person. You give them pay rises, you give them promotion, you make sure that they're comfortable and they're happy in the space. That's the same thing. Leadership is service. So when I'm saying leading and excuse me, when I say leading and directing, I'm talking about actually doing the work, actually making mistakes and saying, okay, this is not how it's done. PR person, this is what I need you to achieve. Assistant, this is the information I need from you every day, right? And ensuring that information, because what you need as a manager to execute your work is information. You need to know things when you go for meetings. You need to know things when you're interacting with the artist, because there's nothing as bad as not being able to answer your artist questions. So you must lead and you must direct. You're directing the team, you're directing the artist, because the artist is going to rely on you for decisions, to make moves, to sometimes even what songs to perform, because the artist would have assumed that you have collected all the necessary information needed to help him execute his job, right? So you must lead and direct. Now, the next thing, which sounds like a tyrant behavior, is controlling. It's essential that in leading, you must also control how things are. You can't control every situation, but it's essential that you're able to control what is being done and how it's being done for your artist. So there are times when situations may not benefit your artist, but it's essential that you're able to turn it around, right? You're able to look at a problem and say, this is the best way to go about this issue without necessarily creating a problem for my artist. So it's essential that you can also control situations, control how things are being done, the process of, so that's why some managers will tell you every single thing must go through me, because it has to go. I have to control how information is going out. I have to control how information is coming in. And I'll explain this. So I remember one of my artists saying to me, I don't think you're doing anything. I don't think you're doing much. And I said, why do you say so? And he said, because I don't see enough calls. And I was like, oh, so you think that it is based on the amount of meetings I tell you I go to that you think I'm working? And he said, I need to see that you're doing things. So I said, all right, I will start blind copying you on emails. Once I'm chasing clients, I'll first of all forward the ones I sent for the last 2 weeks alone. I won't send for the last year, just the last 2 weeks. And then I will start blind copying you on subsequent emails. I think a week after, he was like, please stop, right? Because one of the things that he's failed to understand is I have had to be a cushion for him over time. I have had to, because for every yes I get, I probably got 30 no's. But he doesn't know that. What he knows is there's a yes, there's business, there's opportunity, right? So I'm controlling how information is coming because of how emotional creatives are. If I allow 30 no's get to him, it might depress him. Because imagine people saying no to your talent, your career, no, 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 no. Because I'm a business person, I'm not emotional about it. I'm like, okay, that's not working out. Maybe we'll talk another time, or another opportunity will come up. The artist will be like, F this guy, you know? But what you do instead is you say, look, this is what we're trying to achieve. I understand that this is not what you're looking for as a brand. Hopefully we can come back and do this again. And I walk away and I go and look for a new opportunity. But if the artist had to deal with that, it could depress him. So I manage information. Another thing is because of how creatives receive information and the way they process and analyze, what will happen is, and I'm not saying creatives are bad people, but not every creative can be a business person. And there's a reason why. Because when the same way when an artist is sitting in a room or in a studio, and in 1 hour they've created a rhythm to a beat. Maybe when they were playing the beat, you were like, what kind of nonsense beat is this one? Right? And wow, it's just empty. But then the artist is hearing it differently and then creates a rhythm to that beat. And you are amazed. That's the same way when you are creating a plan and it's a blank page and the artist sees a blank page. The artist is like, how you take right this proposal? He can't understand it. That's the same way they're creating. So understanding the value both of you bring help you, but you must control how that communication is done so that you don't end up being in a situation that you can no longer control. I'll give you an example. A particular artist of mine, I showed him a text from a client, right? And I read the text and saw nothing wrong with it. It was communication. The artist read the text and was like, what kind of rude text is this? Why are they talking to me? What kind of nonsense? So is this how, I don't like the way they're talking about me. And I was like, bro, are we reading the same text? Right? Because there's nothing wrong with this message. This is so I then sat and explained it to him what the client was trying to say. And he was like, oh, okay. So imagine if there was nobody to explain it. Imagine there was nobody who understood it. He would have probably gotten upset and lost an opportunity because he felt like the person was speaking to him in a condescending manner. So it's important. And even if the person was speaking in a condescending manner, I've been in places where somebody has said to me, if your money is like this, then let me call this other person. Right? That is an annoying statement to make. If an artist is sitting there, it's an offense. You're offending me. When you tell me I don't need to, if instead of calling you, I'll just call this other person. So why did you call me to a meeting? Why did I leave my house and come all the way to a meeting to sit down for 1 hour when you already want to call someone else. Obviously, it's a negotiation tactics where they're trying to make it feel like you're not necessarily needed, even if they need you, right? But if you're emotional, you might react to it. So what happens is I laugh it off and I tell them, you're not serious. If you wanted this other person, you would have brought the person to the meeting, right? So I'm in the meeting now. Are we going ahead or not? I can deal with that. Most creative people can't, right? So that's why you must control information that is going into a system. Um, Now, one of the things that a one of the things a manager must learn to do is you must understand human nature. Um, and I think one of the ways that I can explain this very well for people is how how do how do people behave, right? There's a level of psychology in management that you must understand how it works. You need to understand how people behave. Because as I said, if I didn't understand that the way this person spoke to me was just so that they could create an edge for themselves, I would react. I would think that you're being rude. I would think that you're insulting my client, right? But because I understand that there are different personality traits and different people negotiate things differently, I'm able to take my time to first of all understand why you're saying what you're saying before I respond. So it's important that you understand human nature, how people talk, how people behave. You cannot respond or allow everything become personal. You cannot hold grudges. There's something I always say to people: malice has no economic value, none. When you vex, if that person is in a position to help your career grow, what's the point? So people have asked me, oh, this artist that you stop working with, if they ever come back and work with you, would you work with them? I'm like, of course, as long as the terms are understood and clear and agreed upon, I work with anybody. But generally, when people are reacting, the conversation is, ah, me and this person, you know what this person did to me, I can't work with the person again. I don't do that. If we have terms, what I would do instead is I would say, well, based on how we worked the last time, here are mistakes that I made that I'm not going to make again. So here are terms to ensure that whatever happened before doesn't happen again. And if you don't agree to those terms, let us shake hands and let us leave. There are also people that I've said to myself that this person will not work, or my relationship with this person will not work if this person doesn't sign the following things. And some of those things may be unconventional to management. For example, there's a client that I've said, if you do not sign that you cannot touch money, I'm not working with you, because I've seen the artist touch money. When he touches it, it's abracadabra. Yeah. So those conversations happen where, and there's some clients you look at and you say, look, if you don't get medical help for your condition or your situation, I can't work with you, because I know that that will hinder or obstruct the work we're trying to do. Right. So those are the kind of situations that you have to be prepared to do. And you must do this for the artist by assessing what kind of person, which is, as I said, it helps with your planning as well. What kind of person is this artist? And then what kind of person am I sitting across the room from when you're talking to a client? Do you understand what I'm saying? It's important that you're able to understand that. But one of the things I've identified as essential is always protect your client's interest. Don't go into a meeting and start talking about your client. I've sat in a meeting where a manager was told something, it was a negotiation, and the person said, this is the thing we need your artist to do, blah, blah, blah. And the artist started complaining about the manager started complaining about his artist. I've never seen it before. Right? He just started complaining. The artist won't do it. He's stubborn. He doesn't listen. I'm like, guy, what you've just done in this meeting is you've made us feel like we cannot trust you, or we're not confident enough to know that you can control your artist. That's what you've just done. In your quest to get pity from us, you've now told us that we can't trust you to manage your artist. If your artist says he's not doing, you probably will not be able to do anything about it. That's what you said to us. So I don't know what he was trying to achieve. I feel like he was trying to get pity from us, like, help the artist. Let's not do this one. You won't do it. And I'm like, if you won't do it, then why am I paying you? That's what I'm paying you to do. What you should be doing instead is you should find ways to convince us why the artist should do it or why we shouldn't do it that way. I'll give you a case in study. A case in now. Beverly Naya is a premium brand. We've sold Beverly Naya as a premium brand from the beginning. Since I started managing her in 2016, that is how I have sold Beverly Naya. Can everybody hear me? Because I just saw a message that Femi is saying he can't hear me. Everybody else can hear me, or Femi?
I can hear you.
Okay. Femi, everybody else can hear me. I don't know if Femi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so it was your mic, not me. Everybody else could hear. Yeah.
Yeah, my network.
Okay. So now, one of the things that I've done since 2016 is I've sold Beverly Naya as a premium brand. So this means that there are a lot of things that most of the brands we worked with want to do that may not necessarily work with the kind of brand that she is, right? So when those things pop up, my first reaction is not, Beverly won't do it. No, Beverly will not do it. Because what that does is I'm already telling the client that it's going to be a difficult relationship. So what I do instead is I propose alternatives. And I try to ensure that those alternatives benefit the client. So if the client says, I want you to do A, I tell them why B is probably a better option, right? And then I tell them that, you know what, I have a few ideas and I will come back to you in a couple of days with my ideas, right? What that does for the client is it shows that, one, you're being considerate about what they're requesting, but you're also communicating. You also have the idea or the concept of creating better ways that they could reach your audience. Bearing in mind that you sign Beverly Naya because you want Beverly Naya to reach your audience, right? That's why you sign her as an ambassador or as an influencer for your campaign, so that she can reach her audience. Now, you cannot now force how she will reach her audience on her, because the reason why you reached her is because she knows how to reach her audience. So why don't you talk to her to help you find the best way to reach her audience? So when you communicate those things to the brand, to show them that there's a reason why I'm not doing it this way, because if I do it how I normally engage, I will give you more engagement. I will give you more conversions. So that changes the conversation from, Beverly is a difficult person, to, wow, Beverly's team are on point. Beverly, they know what they're doing. When a brand contacted us, Nivea told us, they sent us an artwork and said post. My first reaction to that was, I can post this, but you will not get the engagement. And they said, why? And I said, because once Beverly's fans, bear in mind that she communicates with her fans a certain way. Once they see this, their first reaction will be, it's a paid ad, and they will keep it moving. But if she communicates with her audience the way she normally does, and then introduces the product, that changes the way they react to it. So if you see her Nivea ads, it will look as if it's a regular Beverly Naya video or a regular Beverly Naya picture, and then Nivea is introduced. Could be a slide. She could post a picture of her in her car going out, and she's like, I feel so fresh, blah, 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 blah. And it's because of Nivea. And then the next page, you see a Nivea ad, or you see a picture of Nivea, or she's arranged it on her bed or on the table, and she's taken a picture of it and posted it. That way, it's more engaging. People are more likely to engage that content because they can see that, it's still in line with the person that I follow. But when you put an ad there, all this artwork they put, one Nivea logo there, this is just scattered, they just be like, it's an ad. All of us do it. When we go on our favorite artist page, when we see an ad, our first reaction is, okay, they don't pay our money for this thing. And we keep it moving because there's no way that the artist hasn't found a way to connect that product to how I feel, right? So if it's a skin product and I'm somebody who likes Beverly Naya's skin, and then she starts the conversation by telling me that, fresh day, my skin feels amazing. Your first reaction is, hey, what did she use? And then she says, Nivea. Your next reaction is, okay, okay, interesting. So this works. But it's different when you just see an ad and you're like, okay, I've seen it. So it's important for you to understand how people behave when you're engaging clients, artists. You must, or actors, you must learn how to engage them based on how they behave or who they are, how they speak. There are people that I've met, some of my clients, and they're like, this person doesn't know how to talk, and I'm like, it doesn't mean any harm. This is just who he is. This is part of the reason why we don't he doesn't do a lot of engagement, because people might be offended, because that's just the way he talks. Sometimes you can't change people, right? So it's important that you understand that. Now, when we talked about leadership, we talked about coaching people. Coaching, as the word sounds, is telling people what to do. That's basically the layman's description of coaching. That's what a coach does. A coach tells the footballers how they should play so that they can win. Coaching your artist is communicating how they should say things, how they should behave in public, what they should do during an interview. That process is extremely essential. So that means the manager himself needs to actually learn those things. You need to develop yourself to the point where you're learning how to do those things. Let me give you a typical example. When Wande Cole was having a meeting with the MD of GT Bank for King Cole concert in 2018, before that meeting, I had to coach him, because the man is a big fan of Wande Cole, but he recognizes that Wande has a management. But you see, the thing is, there's a likelihood that he would take the business conversation more seriously if Wande Cole was having that conversation with him. Bear in mind that he knows of me, but I'm not the reason why he wants to meet. And even if his team will listen to me, what he wants to do is talk to Wande Cole, right? So this is the MD of GT Bank. This is the man that can release the funds. We're going to have this meeting, and we sit in the office, and Wande Cole is telling him why GT Bank should sponsor, why he's the best artist. Because bear in mind, GT Bank, apart from Basketball and a few people, GT Bank doesn't give sponsorship to shows. They have their own fashion show, they have their own end of year concerts, they have their own events, right? So they don't really necessarily need to sponsor anything, and they have the customer base. So this is us trying to convince him to release funds for King Cole concert. And so Wande Cole sitting down and breaking down these conversations to him was as a result of coaching prior to the meeting. Some interviews that I go with there are interviews that artists are going to, that I tell them, I have warned this person not to bring this matter up. However, I cannot control once you are in that interview. So if this thing comes up, here is how you should respond. If this scenario comes up, here is how you should respond. Right? There are times when the artists have lost. I'm sitting there, and the artist is the question comes up, and the artist is thinking, hey, and I've been like, cut to a break. But it's like, you don't want to answer the question. I'm like, cut to a break. Sometimes we just tell the presenter, thank you very much for your time. Just so that this conversation doesn't get any more awkward, we might have to leave, right? Or do not bring this conversation up again. Also remember, that depends on the caliber of the artist you're with. To do that, sometimes you're going to need to brave it through and tell them, oh, on this matter, I don't think it's wise for me to communicate, because there are people that will be affected. There are ways that you can communicate things without creating a problem, right? So those are things that you must understand how to do. You must coach your artists. Now, networking is an essential part of talent management. Networking is how you build your reputation, your career. Now, one of the most important traits of a talent manager is the ability for you to get return calls. I'll explain that again. Your ability to open doors. is what sustains your career as a manager. And it's important that you're able to understand those things. And we'll talk about the nature of a talent manager, right? You need to understand that if you don't have a career for yourself, you cannot, it's going to be hard for artists to want to work with you. So yes, when you're starting off, some artists are willing to take a chance on you and say, you know what, okay, let's go. But the reality is, if you are not developing yourself, if you're not building a career for yourself, if you're not knowing the right people or networking, and networking sometimes involves, as I said earlier, just doing your job. Some people used to think that for them to network properly, they need to be at social events, they need to attend events. But sometimes when you attend many events and nobody knows what you're doing, it kind of becomes like you're a nuisance. I know many people that people have asked me, waiting this one day, I dey see him for every event, but I don't know who him be, right? And once people start feeling that way about you, it's difficult for you to start a serious conversation because there is already an idea about who you are. You are just the guy who goes to events. You cannot be that person. So one of the ways I've advised people to solve that problem is to volunteer at some of these events, because you will end up still being at the event. You end up seeing the same people, but it's an entirely different mindset when I see you working as opposed to when I see you hanging out at all events. And when you're working, what that does for you as a manager is you build relationships with people, not just with people above in terms of people that own the shows and the people organizing, but also with your peers, because people mistake networking that it means talking to people above, being able to reach the guy in the next. No, sometimes networking is being able to interact with people in your circle or in your group or people in your level, because most of the guys who are brand managers now were entry-level staff when I started. Most of the guys who are sitting in certain positions were part of City of David crew or part of Spirit of David crew and Masks, the dance group in the early 2000s, right? Those are the guys that have now gone into organizing major events, stage management. Those are the guys that have gone into brands. Those are the people that so when I talk to them, it's not because I just met them. It's because there's been a relationship, there's been mutual respect from the beginning. And so now that they're in a position of power, I can pick up the phone and call them and say, oh, this is what I want to do. The former head of events of GT Bank was in university was this SU guys, right? So, and then the Spirit of David, and there are all these events, dance events, performances that were happening. Relationships were built. So yes, competence is essential, but also because the person knows me, the person already knows that I am competent. So one of the ways to build network is to show competence, to show that you're able to assist and help to make things better in any environment. Next time, if I meet you for the first time and you are creating a solution, and I meet you another time and you are solving a problem, the next time I meet you and you tell me that you represent somebody, I would believe you. I would say, you know what, this person, I've seen this person work. So when you go to events, don't go to events because you're going there to hang out or you just want to network. Sometimes most of the people going to events are trying to relax. I know how many times people have come to try and have a conversation with me, and I'm like, bros, not today now. Bros, I'm just chilling. Bro, see drink for my table now. I beg now. I just want to relax, right? But that person came to that event with the intention of networking, which is understandable. These days, what people don't understand is, before Corona, when we go out, what we normally do was, if I'm going to a place, one of two things. I'm either meeting somebody that I have discussed with the person that I'm coming there to meet him. Oh, let's meet at this place. When we're there, while we're hanging out, we'll quickly have a conversation. Or I'm going there to just chill. So I already have a defined plot for why I'm going to an event. But the person who's trying to network with me is going there because he's hoping that he will see me and that he'll be able to have a conversation with me. The problem with that is I'm not interested in that conversation because I want to relax. I've been working all day. I need to chill. And now because I'm a nice guy, I usually don't say shoo or get out from here. What I would say instead is, my oga, I beg now. I'm just chilling. I beg, I want rest. I did relax, right? And but the reality is I would forget that person because that's not why I went there. But guess what? If I'm at a venue and there's a reference, bear in mind that every time, most of the time, we those of us in the industry longer talk to each other more than people think. So I know how many times that people have called me to ask me about if I know of somebody. Or I know how many times I've asked somebody that I wanna hire someone. I ask another friend, do you know this person? They're like, no, I don't know this person. Okay. If there's no information, then maybe I need to do some more asking or more questioning. But generally, if all of us know who you are and we're like, now that guy where they always come, I they always see him for events, but what thing they do? So when you think about networking, be very clear about what you're trying to achieve. It's something you build over time. And as I said, don't always think about networking with the guy at the top of the table. Sometimes network with my staff, right? Sometimes identify who the people on my team are and see if you can create a solution or create a sense of, okay, direction for yourself, that my staff might say, boss, I had a conversation with this person. This is what this person said. It's easier. So everybody keeps thinking of networking as the guy on top. I need to meet the guy on top. The guy on top too has somebody on top he's trying to meet. So it's a ladder and all of us are going up. So I go to the event because I want to talk to the head of events of GT Bank. You are coming because you want to talk to me. Our purpose do not align. So there's a problem, right? So we can't communicate because we're not there for the same reasons. However, if you found a way to communicate to get in my face, it's easier for me to now say, okay, I've noticed this person, I see what this person is doing, I've asked about this person, and I can actually give this person a meeting. It's easier that way. So when you're networking, please put all these things in mind. Yes, you can have a goal. I'm going to do, people will tell you, don't always listen to motivational speakers, please, because it doesn't work for everybody. You know, when you're going to this event, have an outline of things you want to say in 1 minute, you need to be able to address it. Yes, you should have that. But what if you don't even get to meet the person? There are many people that have tweeted at me that I came to this event to see you, but you left before I got there. Or after you finished talking, you left. Yeah, because after I finished talking, 60 people were trying to talk to me. So it's not because I didn't want to talk to you. It was because I had already spoken to 20 people and I needed to leave for another meeting or I needed to go somewhere else. So in your mind, you're like, this guy is a snob. In my mind, I'm just trying to get from point A to point B. So it's important that you're able to, as much as you can, plan the unexpected, because you can't control how I'm going to behave when I get to the venue. It's out of your control. You can't even control if the event will start earlier or start later. You can't control any of these things. So instead, what you want to focus on is how do I build relevance for myself within the industry so that when I have a conversation, I have things to reference. That is what I would advise you about networking. Now, communication as a trait of a manager is essential. Learn how to write. When you send an email to a client or to an individual, you must ensure that you're communicating appropriately to that person. There's language you do, there's the language you speak with your. That's why the way we talk to our bosses is not how we talk to our colleagues, is not how we talk to our family. So subconsciously we are aware of this. But sometimes when we're having these conversations and we're communicating, we get relaxed and we put ourselves in an uncomfortable situation. So it's important that when you're communicating, you must look at the people. The way I talk to my mechanic is not how I talk to my staff, and it's not how I talk to my clients, and it's not how I talk to brands. These are 4 different conversations, and I must communicate appropriately so that the person I'm talking to can understand me. So communication is an essential trait of a manager. Ensure that when you're sending out emails, you structure your emails in a way that is clear. Another thing for managers when they're trying to reach out to people, one of the mistakes we've made, I would say we because I've made those mistakes before, is you go on blabbing and the person you're talking to is so busy that he doesn't have the time. So the next time he sees your email, he's thinking, this guy again, another long set of blabbing. So what you want to do is you want to be clear about what you're saying. Hello, this is me. This is why I'm reaching out. This is what I think you can do for me. I look forward to hearing from you. You see that structure is how you should communicate generally to people that you're trying to get favors from. I know how many people on Instagram or Twitter DM will send me a message saying hi. I won't reply. The reason why I won't reply is, one, I do not know you. So first of all, I'm bearing in mind that there are a lot of conversations that I'm having every day. So, and I've had conversations where somebody said hi and I replied and I regretted it. Like regretted it. The conversation just went left too quickly, right? So, so it's important that when you're communicating to somebody who you're trying to reach out to, two things I must say. One, be very clear about what you want to discuss. So, hi, my name is XYZ. I'm reaching out for the following reasons or for this reason, right? And I'm hoping that I can hear from you soon. Now, by the time I open that message, I can see what you want. And it's easy for me to now say, I can help this person, or I can respond to this, or this is not my business, or I cannot respond to it, or I can respond to it, but I can't help this person. That's the first thing. Be clear in your communication. The second thing is don't bear a grudge. Most of the time, when you're trying to reach busy people, you're not the only one trying to reach them. And what happens most of the time, or some of the time, is they even miss your messages. I know someone that messaged me something that I actually wanted to do, but I didn't see it until 3 weeks after. Because I woke up one day and I decided, okay, let me do, I saw too many DMs that I had not responded to. So it was a free Saturday. So I was like, look, let me just check. So I was going through them and then I saw a message. I was like, oh, wow. And I contacted the person and I said, apologies for, now bear in mind, this person was begging me for my time. But what did I do when I responded? Apologies for not responding earlier. Why? Because this thing is relevant to me. So sometimes when you're talking to somebody, it might not necessarily connect with what they're trying to do or who they are or where they are at that point. And you can't take it personal. You cannot take it personal. As a manager, bear in mind that the more results you create, the more easy or the easier it is for you to have some of these conversations. The easier it is for people to notice you. So think of it from a ratio perspective. If I have something to offer and I talk to 10 people before one person answers me, it means that I need to talk to 30 people for 3 people to answer me, or I need to talk to 40 people for 4 people to answer. So it's an average thing. It's a ratio thing. Okay, no problem. I'm going to continue doing this. But what that does for you is somebody knows you. The person has seen your name. The person sees that you have something to offer. It may not be relevant to them, but they see that there's something to offer. The next time there's a conversation, they can recognize you. In 2015, I sent out close to 100 proposals. Only 3 worked. 3. But what happened in the following years was that a lot of those people that I had sent proposals to, a lot of those proposals that I developed specifically for them, I was able to now take it and apply for some other brands. 1. 2, some of those people that got those emails couldn't really do anything for me at the time. And when they got promoted, contacted me to say, you sent me an email a year ago or 2 years ago about XYZ. Have you been able to execute it? It's something I'd like us to discuss. Some other people never called me back. Some other people knew of me because they had been in a meeting where my proposal was discussed and was turned down. But me, I'm sitting there thinking, they've blanked my email. They actually sat in a meeting, discussed it, thought about it, and felt this is not the direction we're going right now, and shut it down. I didn't know until 2-3 years later, when somebody, brand manager, is telling me, oh, you sent in a proposal, we're discussing it. At the time, it didn't work out for us, but we think it's something, there's some elements of that proposal that we can develop for the thing we're doing now. So it might look like all the work you're doing is not paying off now, but you'll be shocked at how easily things will come because of the work that you've done. I don't know if I'm making any sense. So when you're communicating, be very clear, be very precise, do not hold a grudge. As I said, malice has no economic value. So don't hold on to things. It's not going to help you. Yeah. Now another thing I wanted to talk about is understanding the nature of talent or artist management. There are three major things that you are doing, or two major things that I think you need to understand in terms of your nature as a manager. One is that you will make decisions. That's the first thing. Your job is to make decisions, is to collect as much information as possible. Remember, you're a GM or MD. Collect as much information as possible so that you can make informed decisions that benefit your talent. That's the first thing. The second thing is you will deal with pressure. Whether it's pressure from the artist, whether it's pressure from the brand, but you will deal with pressure. And it is important that you prepare yourself for that. Especially the more successful your artist gets, pressure will increase exponentially. Yeah, because demands will increase. You're now talking to multiple brands. You are now controlling higher amounts of money. The conversation is not going to be the same. It's going to get harder. It's going to get more difficult. So it's essential that you prepare for that pressure. The other thing is, which is the most important thing, is understanding that nobody really wants to talk to you. I know that sounds off, but that's the truth. When you're a manager starting your career and your artist is successful or your artist is slightly famous or known, nobody wants to talk to you. They want to talk to the artist. And the only reason they talk to you is because of the artist. So you have to manage your expectations in terms of your value until you have actual value to give. And the value only comes from how you manage your interactions with the people. I say this every time. Half of the doors I've opened in my career as a human being, it has been because of the artists I work with. And if you forget that, you're in a deep soup. Once you put yourself in the same category of fame as your artist, you are plotting your own downfall. Because you must learn how to communicate. You must learn that these people don't really want to talk to you. And the reason why they would want to talk to you is because of how you communicate with them when they talk to you. What solution did you give them? I'll give you an example. When I was speaking to a brand once, and I was able to create a solution for them, for my client. They had a big issue how they would approach it, and I was like, look, here's an idea of how you can do it. It will be in line with the artist brand, so I know that the artist is 100% on board, but also it will benefit you in the following ways. And I broke it down. The next time they wanted to have a meeting, they told me, oh, your artist doesn't need to come, it's you that we need in the meeting. And what that means is I had an opportunity to introduce myself to this brand, not just as a guy that is following this artist to meeting, but as the person who's responsible for developing this artist's career and therefore is the guy who we should be talking to. It changes the conversation. Another example was, there's a client of mine, I don't want to mention their names so that you people don't look at them funny. He had messed up with a particular brand multiple times, and this brand was like, we're never working with this person again. And one of my students, Abuchi, somebody who I trained, was in a meeting as a consultant to this brand. It's a major brand. And the person, they were like, no, we can't book this artist. No, this artist, see what this artist has done to us. And Abuchi said to that person, to the brand manager, no, the person managing this artist now will not allow that happen. And they were like, who's this person? And he said, his name is Godwin Tom. Okay, get Godwin Tom on the phone. The brand manager said to me, and I quote, Abuchi just said to me now that you can control this artist. This is what this artist has done to us 2 to 3 times. So Abuchi says, since you can control this artist, the brand manager says, since you can control this artist, we are trusting Abuchi that trusts you. If this artist does this thing to us again, you and Abuchi will pay us not just the artist fee, but also damages for this event. When the artist showed up, did the job they were supposed to do, because me and this artist had a conversation at the start of my career, and I said, you will not go to a show late. If there's a problem with any show, it will not be you. Because what the feedback I've gotten is you are a problem to deal with. And if you're interested in making money, you cannot be a problem. Don't be a hindrance to your own growth, right? So there was that conversation at the start of the relationship. So when this conversation now comes up, and I'm like, oh, don't worry, the artist will show up. It wasn't a difficult thing to do. It was a clear conversation to have. So when the artist showed up on time, gave a great performance, it was almost as if Godwin Tom is a messiah. So you build your career by delivering. And it's essential that you know that it's not about you. It's about this artist growing. And by delivering work for that artist, what you're doing for yourself is you're developing your own career. Everybody knows. And once artists see that your reputation will give them benefits, they want to work with you. And that's just how it works. That's how the business works. Now, there are some other things that I want you guys to understand about management as well. There are 4 basic things that helps your career grow or sustains you in the industry. These 4 things are money. That's the first one. Now, the reason why I say money first is because it's not necessarily the most important one. Because not everybody starts with money. But if you have money, you're able to have certain meetings. I can take a brand manager out. I can take an OAP out. I can have conversations. I can buy drinks in the club. If I meet them outside, I can be like, you know what? Yeah, send drinks on me for this table. Stuff like that. That costs money. Managing an artist costs money. And the more successful your artist is, the more doors you try to open, the more expensive it is for you. Right? That's the first thing. So money is essential. There are things you need to do. There are places you need to go. When you need to go to meetings, you need transport money. If you have a car, you need fuel money, right? If your car is bad, you need to have some sort of cash. You don't need to be rich, but you need to have what we call capital, because management is a business, and you need capital to execute some of the things you need to do, so that when the money starts coming back, when you start earning your 10, 15, 20%, you would have put an investment into your business that is now yielding returns. The second thing is access, which comes from networking. Being able to walk in through certain doors, to open those doors for your artists to walk past and create opportunities for your artists. That is power. So there's money as a source of power. There is access as a source of power. So bear in mind, as I said, money is good, but it's not the most important part, because once you do the work, the money will come. Now, after access, the next thing I would say is your latest success. How relevant are you now? What did you do last month, last year, last week? Why should I listen to you as a brand? Why should I listen to you as an artist? So as a manager, you're required to take some risks, take some chances, make some decisions, go head in to make sure that you can get your client the best deal, that you can get your client, put your clients in the best situation, right? Those things are the things when see there are artists, not there are artists generally will listen to you for a period of time. And if for a period of that time they're listening to you, you're not providing any solutions, they will stop asking your opinion. I don't know if any of you have been in that situation before, where you and this artist, he usually just talks to you about this situation, and then one day you just realize, like after a while, you just realize that he has not been asking you again. Most of the time, that is how you know that you're about to lose your job or you're about to be replaced, right? Because there's no communication. The artist is like, this person over the last few months has not been giving me answers to any question, has not been able to find any solution, has not created any job. What's the point of asking him questions? So the conversation drifts from you. And then they start asking someone else, and whoever is giving them the most answers is who they will spend more of their time with. So what is your latest success? You must be able to identify your latest success. What have I done? If I was coming to you now and talking to you about what I did with MI, some of you will not talk to me again. You just be like, what's the point? You won't pay for this program. Because you'll be wondering, okay, yes, Godwin Tom worked with MI, yes, but that was 12 years ago. Yeah, that was 10 to 12 years ago. What did he do last year? What did he do the year before? Right? So it's important that there's a level of success that you're doing, that you're consistent with the output, because eventually it will affect who listens to you and who talks to you. The last thing I would say is your body of work. Because as important as your latest success is, your body of work is also important, because some people take a break. Some people may decide, you know what, for the next 2 years, I'm going to go do something else, right? I'm going to go, I'm going to go spend time with family. I'm going to go, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to worry about my mental health. There are many reasons why people might say, I need a break, or might not be active in management. But when they come back, does their body of work speak for them? Does the work they've done speak for who they are? There are times that I've taken a break from management and I've been called back by artists, like, look, come. I remember when I decided I was done managing artists. This was 2011, 2011, 2012. I was like, I'm done with managing artists. I want to go do something else. I started writing articles about talent management called Managing the Talent. And I remember Waja asked me at the end of 2011 to manage her, and I said no, I wasn't interested. And then in 2012, she said something to me. She was like, all these things where you did right, come do and make we know say you sabi do, right? And that was the challenge I needed to bring me back into management. And then when I started working with her, I got a call from Whiskey. So your body of work will also speak for you. And over time, that is what may sustain you. Because as I said, there are many reasons why some of us take a break. There are times when I've just said for my mental well-being, I'm going to just step aside, right? For example, I'm taking a break from management so I can focus on training programs, on training more people, right? So does that mean I will become irrelevant? Not necessarily, because my work will speak for me. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So body of work also does matter. Now, let's talk about the manager as an entrepreneur. For a lot of people, this is a means to an end. I'm doing this because I didn't get work. I'm doing this because, there's nothing else to do. If that is why you are doing this, I will tell you now that you will not last long in the industry, because already in your mindset, you do not plan to last in the industry. You're using this as a stepping stone. I manage artists and I go on to other things in my life, right? And that might work. You might be successful that way. But if you're trying to stay here for the long term, then you have to actually start thinking about yourself as an entrepreneur. What service am I offering to the artist? Bear in mind, you go from CEO of the company to a partner of the company, or to a business offering the company a service. That is when you shift from employee or member of staff to entrepreneur. When you identify that, okay, we've built a business around how I work with the artists, so I now have staff that can interact with artists and do these things, and I can actually do many other things for many other people that service or that bring financial value to my business. That is when conversations begin to change. And it's important as a manager that you're plotting your graph or your personal career path towards that trajectory. So when you're managing an artist, as I said, all the things I've said from the beginning about why you should build your own career all boils down to becoming an entrepreneur yourself. The reason why most of us have been successful, from Olamide's manager to Asa Sika, or Olamide's manager Alex Okeke to Asa Sika, Davido's manager, to Osagi, Timaya's manager, to Eloka, Fino's manager, to all the managers that you see that are quite successful in the industry right now, one of the things that we all have in common is that the artist is no longer our only source of livelihood. We can sustain our business to a point that if the artist chooses that they want to take a break, we won't suffer. But that takes time to build, because as you make an artist successful, it becomes easy for you to walk through the doors that you've opened for yourself. And I'll give you another example. When people say do many things, you need to be careful about that advice. And the reason why you must be careful about that advice is because of how it can affect you. When you pick something that you are good at, even if you are good at many things, yes, try your hand at many things. But when you find what makes you successful, do that thing. Be successful in that thing. And then when you are successful in that thing, it becomes easy to now spot opportunities around that thing. Typical example, I was a manager of one artist, MI. We succeeded as a crew, as a partnership, we did great. But what that did for me was it now opened up the opportunity for me to manage multiple artists. But I needed to show these other multiple artists that I could do the work. So now they've seen I can do the work, multiple artists. Now I've worked with multiple artists, and then I've created more opportunities for myself. Now I'm an author. So I write books based on the work I've done. I'm a teacher. I run programs and generate revenue from the programs. I'm a consultant. You see where I'm going? I can do multiple things because I was able to do one thing very well. And that one thing has now opened doors. I consult for brands, I consult for artists, I consult for labels, right? To have a 1 hour conversation, I charge 50,000 naira. So think about it from a perspective of being successful at doing my job really well has now opened up doors for me to generate more revenue for myself, for my business. If I were depending on artists in the pandemic last year, I would have suffered a great deal because they were not making money for the most part of the year. So the only thing I could rely on was my ability to create solutions for people. And that sustained me through a difficult year. Right? So the boot camp last year, I got 160 people registered for the program. Yes, that was cheaper, but it was more tedious, right? So I prefer that. Okay, there are not as many people doing the conversation, but I can make as much money. So I'm generating income for myself because of the additional services I'm offering. And that is the reason why I'm saying you need to think about it from a perspective of where does my career go? And sometimes you may not have the answers when you start, but it's important that you have a plan. As much as you're creating a plan for the artist, you must also create a career plan for yourself. What and how do I do this to ensure that I am offering value that helps me grow over time? When I realized that I needed to build a business for myself as well, was when I stopped working with Whiskey. And I'll explain why. When I managed MI, a lot of the brand managers wanted to talk to me. They were my guys. When I stopped managing MI, a lot of them stopped talking to me. Why? Remember what I said? They don't want to talk to you. They want to talk to the artist. The reason why you are there is because of the artist. So that was my first blow at this. The second blow was I now started managing Whiskey and they started talking to me again. Now, new value, right? We want to talk to this guy. This guy is the person in the middle, so we have to talk to him. So everybody was talking to me again. But you see, I was carried away by the fact that, yes, I'm now the guy they talk to. Fast forward to when Whiskey and I stopped talking, stopped working, and boom, they stopped talking to me again. So what that taught me was I needed to be my own brand. I needed to stop being Godwin Tom, Whiskey's manager, or Godwin Tom, MI's manager. I needed to be Godwin Tom. So I started offering these brand solutions. I started reaching out to them to say, here's how I can help you interact with this artist. Here's how I can help you reach this audience using the following artists. Even if they're not my clients, I can direct you. And that opened up doors for me to the point where by the time I'm now managing a one-day call, for example, people were not talking to me because of one-day call. As a matter of fact, some people were booking one-day call because of me. Why? The relationship that I had built for myself. So I built a career for myself, I built a business, and people were working with me based on the value that I was offering, not necessarily because I was connected to an artist. If that does that make any sense? You guys with me?
Yes, it makes sense.
Fantastic.
That makes a lot of sense.
Fantastic. So basically talking about you developing a business, or it's about building your career. There are people who say things like, oh, build your career, but you must always also build a business. I always advise people build a career, but build a business too, because your business is what will. I have a career. I'm still building a business, right? But I had to learn to retrace my steps late into my career. 8 to 9 years into my career was when I started building a business. Because I was building a career, everybody knew Godwin Tom, but my business wasn't running if I wasn't available. So it's essential that you are able to do that early. This is the reason why I do this training. So you guys don't go 8 years in, 9 years, 10 years in before you're like, hey, I should have done this differently. So it's important that you understand that you're an entrepreneur. So start sorting out your taxes early. Because before you have plenty money is the best time to sort your tax issues. When you start having, trust me, I know. When you start making money, the first day I went to sit with the tax office was because of my clients. And because of the money my clients were making, their eyes now came to me. Like, so you're the one even controlling all this money. What have you paid your own tax? So it's important that you're able to sort out those things so that you're not dealing with backlogs. Instead, you're able to say, okay, I've sorted my books out early. Your ledger, your profit and loss, your expense and income. Ensure that you're doing those things early so that you can plan your career properly. And when it's time when you start making money, you would have created a system for yourself. How do you save? How do you invest? How do you invest in your business? It's important that you're able to think about that. Now, we're going to talk about revenue and growth. Before I move forward, if you have any questions, you can start typing them in the comment section so that I can answer them when we finish, right? So I can start with those I already have about 4 questions, but I think I've answered some of it already. But I'll go back and look at those questions as well. Revenue and growth opportunities in the industry. There are so many things that a manager can do when he's successful with his career. So many things. There are so many opportunities to diversify your earnings. As I said, I'm a manager, I'm an author, I facilitate training programs, I consult for businesses. I do all these different things because I did my job as a manager. So you're able to grow as an individual and grow your business into multiple income streams by building your career and building yourself. And there are many, many, many things you can do. There are conversations I've had with successful accountants, successful oil business owners who want to go into entertainment. And they can trust my judgment because they believe that I've been there and I've done it. So I can grow as from manager to consultant to business executive to business development person for another business simply because of the work that I've done. I can create multiple revenue streams for myself, but I must do the work first. Now, I must warn you, a lot of people start their career and try to manage 2, 3, 4 people. I would always advise people to start with 1. Give this one your absolute best, right? And when you succeed with that 1, it becomes easy to walk other clients through the door. Because when you're trying to fit everybody in, bear in mind, you're still trying to open the doors. So if you are carrying many people with you, it's just like going to somebody's house, right? And they invited you and your friend, you plus 1. You're going to a house party and they're like, you plus 1. And then you show up with 5 people. They might ask you to leave. Because there's a reason why they invited you plus 1. Maybe they only made accommodation for 20 people or 40 people. So if they planned 20 people that are coming plus 1, then they're targeting, okay, 40 people should be enough. If you show up with 5 people, that's 45 people. You're a nuisance, right? So start first by going with your party of 1, getting through the door, knowing the different people there. When you go in with your party of 1, what happens is you meet different people. You meet 5 other people. Those 5 people in 1 year might be 5 different doors that you can walk 5 different artists through. But they need to be able to see that you are competent with this one artist you brought to the party. Is this party scenario making sense? I hope the party scenario is making. I have not lost anybody. So you go to a party with 1 person that you're allowed to come with. You show them that you've done a great job with this 1 person. And because you've done a great job, more opportunities are going to open. And then as more opportunities open, you are able to say, I don't like this opportunity. I don't like this opportunity. And this doesn't work for my artist. And then you're able to see who else can it work for. And this is where the conversation, occurs. This is where the conversation occurs that you are able to now say, well, this is a new opportunity, and I can create jobs or business for another artist with this opportunity. It becomes easier to do when you've opened doors, because as I said, going back to those doors become less stressful. And if a brand knows that you were successful with them, with one artist, with one talent, it's easy for them to give you a listening ear. They may not necessarily agree with everything you bring or do everything you bring, but you can walk through that door with a new artist. So that's my advice. Always, in building a business, start with one and grow. As you grow, you're able to create multiple revenue streams for yourself. I think before Corona came, 2019, 2017, 2018, 2016, I could be in my house and 4 of my clients are in 4 different events, right? Now that sounds sweet, and most people will look at it and say, oh boy, see life. This guy, the joy. I could be home and I'm making phone calls, and if I'm needed, I could drive to the venue where there's an issue, or I could just call the organizer or the stage manager and say, I'm hearing this is an issue. Why is it an issue? Can you resolve it? I could do that. I could go to bed and my staff would be at these different locations giving me a situation report. I could do those things, right? But before I got to that point, I was at all the shows with the artists I work with. I was at all the meetings. I was at all the even the ones that didn't bring money. I was at all of them. So before you get to that point, you need to put in the work. And as you put in the work and build, so there are 5 things. I'll give you my 5 cardinal what's the word? The 5 things that I personally hold on to. The first one is, when you decide what you want to do, you should learn about it, right? Learn about it properly. So the first one is learning. Once you've learned, and which is why people go to school, Abi. Once you've learned about it, the next step is you practice. So your practice is with that one client that you have. Your ability to continue to try and try and try, go to meetings. I say this every time. If you have manager A and you have manager B, and manager A is always hanging out with the artist, they're playing video game every day. Tuesday afternoon, they're playing video game, hanging out in the studio, smoking weed. Then manager 2, the same Tuesday afternoon, is out knocking on doors. He's getting a lot of no's, but he's knocking on doors. He's trying to figure out how to create opportunities for the artist, how to make money for the artist, how to build a career, how to create some awareness. Between these 2 artists, A and B, if artists between these 2 managers, if artists gets hungry, who is he sending to buy a wagon? It's manager A. Because that one, at some point, the artist will think, okay, so you're my guy now. You're not my manager. You're my guy now. Are they hungry? You know, so I know if you go buy the food myself. They're the one going to buy the food. If you're working, it's that opportunity. So when people say, they treat managers like houseboy, my question is, can you check the manager as well? Because no artist wants to abuse the relationship with a manager that is bringing in money. This one I know for a fact. Yourself, no matter how you are, no matter how much you misbehave, when you work with somebody that is bringing in business, you want to allow, sometimes you allow privileges. I remember when we were in London, and somebody told one day, this is your manager. I know they see him now. You know they hang out with you. You know they hang out with boys. And one day said, you know, be my friend and I'm my manager. Let him 2 days later, I called him and I told him, I said, guess what? He said, what? Because we were in London for a month together and we only saw each other 3 times. But he was confident that I was working. He knew that, you know what, Godwin is going to call me very soon with something. And guess what? When I called him, I was bringing something to the table. So when I call him, what does he do? He will pick my calls. Because he knows I don't waste his time and I call him when it's necessary. We can have our time to hang out, but one day is not my brother. He's not my cousin, and he's not really my friend. What he is my client. So even if he's my friend, Beverly Naya has become my friend. Show them camp are my friends. But there is a time for that. Right? Bottom line is, if I'm not making Beverly Naya money, she's going to question my business relationship with her. And sometimes to save our friendship, she might have to terminate the business relationship. So you must separate the two. So when I called one day that period in London, I said, yo, guess what? He's like, what is it? Tell me. I said, you're on Ends Festival and you're a headline act. Boom. What do you think about that conversation? If I'm not don't get me wrong, you can hang out with the artist and still deliver these things. But I'm saying if you're hanging out with the artist and you're not delivering any work, you're not delivering any business, you will become the houseboy. Because even you too, because you know in your heart that you're not delivering any value. You'll be doing things to stay in the conversation. You don't want to get fired. So if the artist wants to eat, yes, you go and buy the food. I don't know how many artists would have the audacity to send me to buy food. You can tell me, oh, I can tell you, I dey come your house, so I need to stop by Chicken Republic, or I need to stop by KFC. You can say, I should come, I beg, buy for me. That's different from a Godwin. Say you need to do anything. Help you go buy. I don't know the artist that can try it. In my current career now, lie. When I started, yes, I would go and help MI buy his food because it was necessary. We didn't have enough team. We didn't have enough people to do that. But in the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years, I don't know artists that would tell me to go and buy him food because I'm too busy. You won't even ask me because you would think that you're obstructing my work. Does that make any sense, guys? So it's important. You build a career for yourself and you create multiple opportunities. So you must recognize it as a profession. It's not a hobby. It is a profession. When I told my father that I was becoming a manager, his first question to me was, what does that mean? And I didn't know how to answer that question. And here's one of the things about, there are certain careers that have now become mainstream, that now become popular, that were never popular before. And there are certain careers that never existed 5 years ago, 10 years ago. The other day, I saw somebody's position in an office. His role is, head of innovation. What does that mean? Right? But as businesses grow, as technology advances, new opportunities. 10 years ago, there was nobody doing the work of social media manager. Now is one of the most sought after roles because somebody needs to manage social media because the people who are doing the work can't be doing that. So somebody needs to be the one who's taking information and putting it on the platform. Sometimes your PR company can do that. Sometimes you can hire someone in-house to do that. It was not a service that was offered 10 years ago. So it is important that as you grow, you're able to understand that your role as a manager is a profession. And one of the reasons I've learned why people are unable to answer questions is because we don't have answers. If somebody asks you a question that challenges your stand as a professional, your first reaction to that challenge is, What's this one saying? This person is attacking me. Because when my father was asking me, what is this? I felt like I was being attacked. But the truth is, I didn't have an answer for him. But as I grew and I was able to define my job and define my role, it became easier for me to tell him what I do. I remember when I was having a conversation with my mother and she told me, I think I mentioned this in my podcast as well. And she said, oh, just get a job, you know, go work in a bank. I said, okay, want me to work in a bank? Yeah, okay. Let me go and find out how much a bank manager earns. When I found out how much a bank manager earns, when I started earning bank manager salary, I called to tell them the bank you want me to work in, I'm if the issue was me taking care of myself, I've sorted it out. Right? So where were we? We were on practice. You practice, practice, practice. The third thing, when you practice and practice well, you begin to provide solutions. When you've done a great job, as I said, when you open the door and you've done well, it opens multiple doors. So when you do a good job, everybody knows you as the guy who is, if you need a manager, talk to that guy. The guy sabi work. So you provide solutions. You are now known as the guy that is providing that solution. So that's 3. Now, because you provide solutions on a regular basis, on a consistent basis, it gives you relevance. People now know you for that. You are relevant for that. People know that, okay, I know how many people have been sent to me because whoever sent them believes that I can do the job. That's relevance. Now, the 5th one, what you do with your relevance is what gives you wealth. That's what gives you money. So I recognize my relevance in the entertainment industry. I recognize my relevance. However, if I do not utilize and monetize my time, I cannot build revenue streams for myself. So what you do with your relevance is what brings you money. And those are the 5 things I personally live by. So when you're examining and thinking about what you want to achieve, it is important that you put those things into consideration. Yep. Now, let's talk about conflict of interest. Most people do not even realize when they create a scenario for conflict of interest. People struggle to understand that they've done something wrong. I'll put it in perspective for you. So let's say I'm a manager and I own a studio. So I started managing an artist and I tell this artist that, oh, you can use my studio. You can use my studio anytime you want, but I will put it at a cost. There's a fee to the studio usage. I'll give you a discount, but anytime you want, you can use it. And I'll just be compiling your bill. And when we start making money, I'll start taking it. Now, that is a conflict of interest. Because a conflict of interest says this situation might affect another situation. Our working relationship might be affected. So it is important. How you deal with conflict resolution is you state that it exists. I own a studio. You don't have to use my studio. If you use my studio, I will charge a fee. I'm willing to give you a discount, but I have staff. Abi, I have employees in the studio and they have to be paid. So if you're going to use it, you're going to need to pay a particular fee. It's stated. So the artist now makes an informed decision to say, okay, I see what you did there. I'm happy to use your studio, or I don't want to use your studio. I'll give you a case study where this was done. Conflict of interest. This was with an artist called, how many of you know Jimi Hendrix?
I do.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. I know
Okay.
him.
All right. Now, Jimi Hendrix had a situation. He was signed to a management company, and what this company did was they so this manager, his name was Michael Jeffries, and what they did with Jimi Hendrix was when they signed Jimi Hendrix to their management, they also signed Jimi Hendrix to a label deal. And then part of the deal was he could only record in their studio. And then because they were a label, they were also earning percentages from his royalties. Because they were management, they were earning percentages from management. So they created multiple conflicts to generate revenue from. So Jimi Hendrix was owing them so much money, even if he was making them a lot of money. And they then signed the contract where, because of what they owned, I think they owned his catalog. So they were playing the role of management, playing the role of studio, playing the role of label. And so Jimi Hendrix died being overworked. He died from overdose, from drug use. But there is a lot of people have theories that part of the reason why Jimi Hendrix died that way was because he was overworked and overwhelmed. So it's important that you are able to identify, because it was later on found out that these people, this Michael Jeffries died he died in a plane crash. And it was his father who saw it and actually made it public that they had done Jimi Hendrix a really bad thing, a really tough thing. Right? So those conflicts, it's important that you address it, because there are times when it will pop up in conversations, which is why as a manager, you don't want to manage the same type of artist, because it will create a conflict of interest. So when you're in a situation, you have to choose between the two. It's a different thing when you set up like if you're Philip Morris, or you are, a talent agency that has talent managers responsible for different types of talent or different talents. So this manager can sign an actress, and the other manager can sign an actress as well, and both of them are working their asses off for that actress. But you see, if one manager signs two actresses, there is bound to be a conflict of interest, because if those two actresses are chasing the same job, he has to pick who he's giving, and that is now a problem with the people that he's engaging. So conflict of interest is a real problem in the music industry and in the entertainment industry, because a lot of people don't even realize that there are conflicts. It's just the same way you're a manager and you work for the label, there's a conflict. And I'll explain. When you work for for an artist, you protect the interests of the artist. When you work for the label, you protect the interests of the label. So if the label pays your salary, you are an employee of the label. Also, if the manager If you earn your commission from the manager, you should be protecting the interest of the manager or of the art. Sorry, if you earn your commission from the artist, you should be protecting the interest of the artist. If the artist pays you a salary, you are an employee of the artist. A manager earns wages. Some artists might say, okay, some managers might negotiate to cover my expense, my costs, my running costs, transportation, internet, those things. Those things are possible. But if you're earning a monthly stipend or monthly salary from the artist, you work as an employee. Now, you might be playing management roles, but you'll be paid as an employee. So if the artist makes 10 million, you will get your salary, unless you negotiated the salary and commission, right? But managers generally earn commissions for work they bring in. But the conflict of interest I was addressing was you working for the label and saying that you protect the interest of the artist. Then the label shouldn't be paying you because you're not protecting their interest. So it's important to be clear about those conflicts and understand it as well. Another conflict that occurs regularly is where the manager also plays the role of investor. I've been in situations where a lot of managers put their money down and they're like, I believe in the artist, so I will pay for bills, I will pay for studio session. But they were not clear. They did not state the conflict from the beginning to say to the artist, I'm your manager, but I'm also playing the role of investor. I'm investing in this business. So I'm recording my investments and both of us need to agree on my expenses. So when I go out and spend money, I'm putting it in documentation and you are agreeing and signing to it so that when we start making money, I know how much the business owes me and I can recoup my investment. So many people don't have that. So what happens is I have this situation where a lot of people will call me and they say, Godwin Tom, can you imagine? Can you imagine? I gave this guy, I was supporting him. I paid for studio session. Now I'm telling him that I want to earn this amount of money and he's telling me no. Is that fair? I was like, well, did you clarify from the beginning? Because that is a conflict of interest. Are you an investor? And as an investor, what do you want? State it ahead. Be clear so that when the conversation starts later on, you guys have reference, which is why contracts are essential. And that is how I'm jumping into contracts. You guys see the way I'm flowing. Right? Now, what is a contract? A contract is a document that simply states obligations, right, of both parties and how they will benefit. Simply put. So a contract is not necessarily about trust. It is about clarity. A contract says artist does A, B, C, D. Manager does A, B, C, D. If we do A, B, C, D, there is a higher chance of receiving X, Y, Z. And when X, Y, Z occurs, this is how manager earns, and this is how artist earns. When we have a situation where we are disagreeing, this is how we will resolve this. That's what the contract does, clarity. Because if you don't have a contract, as I said earlier, when money comes, you guys are now having fights over how you should split it because it was not clear. When something is not clear, there's a lot of confusion with it. It might not look confusing when you start because all of you are hustling and are believing in yourselves, which is great. It's good. But here's the reality. As much as you believe in yourselves, you need to also understand that there will be a time when both of you have to have the serious conversation about who earns what. And if it's not been clearly stated, you're going to have problems. Like the guy that is complaining that he has invested in. If you stated in the contract that for every expense, we will both agree and it will be recouped or paid back when revenue starts coming or when business comes in. When you're not trying to take money that both of you have agreed that you've invested, there's no contest. And if there's a contest, you can reference. You can say, here is what the contract says, and here is proof that I spent this money. Here is proof that you know I spent this money. Here is proof that you approved the spending of that money. Because when you are walking around and you guys are hustling and you're paying studio, the artist is not rejecting the money, Abi. So we are telling the artist, studio is 20K, I'll pay it. The artist is like, yes, thank you so much. But if you're clear from the beginning that this 20K I'm paying, I will collect it back or I'll recoup it when we start making money. Most times the artist will be like, yes. And the artist should be like, yes, because you should believe in yourself that you will make the money. But when we start making the money, you cannot now turn around and say, no, you cannot earn this money. Why? Because we have an agreement. So it's essential that you're clear from the beginning about that. Does that make sense? Now let's talk about the terms.
Yes.
Fantastic. Let's talk about the terms of a management contract. There is a lot of when you look at the contract, sometimes you wonder why contracts can go up to how a contract can go. A contract can be 25 pages, right? And it's a bit confusing for most people. Like, so why am I paying all this money? Abi, why is it so long? Part of the reason is because of all the clauses in the contract, and it's best for both parties to understand what these clauses mean so that it's easy for you to explain yourself to the artist. So the first clause I usually ask people to look at is the length or duration of the contract. The length of duration of the contract is usually how long is this relationship going to last on paper before we have to renew. In some cases, there are probation periods where you say for the next 3 months or 6 months, we will work with you, or we can say the contract is 1 year with a 3-month probation period, or we'll have a 3-month probation period, and after that, we will continue for a year. What that does for you as a business person is those 3 months are the period where you can learn about the artist, spend time with the artist, interact with the artist, and decide if you really want to work with that artist or not, or decide your approach to working with this artist, or decide if you have the resources or the ability to work with this artist. Fino reached out to me in 2010 or so, or 11, and he wanted me to manage him. That was when he released that song with a lot of rappers. And if I'm being honest with you, I spent a week thinking of how I could offer value to Fino, and I couldn't see it. So I told him that, I'm sorry, I can't take the job. Has that made Fino less successful? No. As a matter of fact, I probably saved his career by refusing to work with him. Because if I had taken the job simply because I just wanted another good client, I probably wouldn't have been able to take him where Ill Bliss and Clarence and his current management team have taken him. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So probation period can also be used to do that. You can look at, okay, let me not waste this artist's time or my time for that matter, right? So it's important you can clarify those things for yourself and for the artist. So that probationary period can be in the duration. Now you can, in terms of duration, sometimes people do rollover contracts. Rollover contracts basically imply that as you engage me, this contract will continue until one of us decides to terminate it. And the termination clauses is another clause which we'll discuss later, right? The second thing is the manager's services. What services are you rendering? Remember when I spoke earlier, I talked about clarifying your role. This is where you clarify your role. Now, as a manager, from time to time, you may be required to put on shoes that are not your original shoes, or put on hats that are not your original hats. You might be required to do some PR, some media relations. You might be required to carry your artist bags, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't make you a houseboy. If you're let me put a scenario, your artist is coming out into a crowded environment where a lot of people know the artist and they're going to probably want to interact with the artist or greet the artist. You don't want your artist struggling with a bag. You have to protect his image. So you take everything that could stop him from being the best version of himself so that he can be the best version of himself. It's not your job, but it's essential. As you guys start making money, then it becomes easy. Keep your ego at the door, basically, right? Let your ego, all that, me, I'll never carry artist bag. You carry, my brother. When it's necessary, you will carry. So it's important that you keep your ego aside and do the job. When you now start building enough revenue, either you or the artist can start employing people to do that. There was a time when I went out to buy, we're going for MI. I went out to buy the toothpaste and the toothbrush. But as we grew as a business, he got an assistant, and I didn't need to do that anymore. It wasn't my job, but it needed to be done. And because it needed to be done, I did it. And as we grew as a business, we began to shed some of those roles that did not belong to me, so that the artist, so that I can do my job. I can do it more effectively because the demands are increasing. As popular, as the artist gets more popular, the demands are increasing. And as the demands increase, it's essential that I have all the time and resources to do that. So someone else has to take that responsibility. So you must clarify your services. What are you doing for the artist? You negotiate. Your role is to negotiate jobs. Your role is to find new business or business development. You clarify all those different roles, and you let it be known that these are my primary roles. These are the services I'm rendering you as an artist. So that later on, when the artist says, but that's your job, you can say, no, it's not my job. I did this because there was nobody else to do it. It's important to clarify those things. Even in terms of the working relationship, I remember when an artist said to me, you work for me. I was like, no, go and check your contract. I work with you. I own a business. My business is offering you a service, right? Those services are to your benefit, but I'm not your staff. And there are situations. There's another period, another conversation that we need to discuss, which is exclusivity. The same artist said to me, oh, I don't want you working with another person. I was like, no. My contract states I can work with another person as long as it doesn't create a conflict of interest. So exclusivity needs to be clarified. And exclusivity can work both ways. So you're either exclusively managing this artist, or the artist is exclusively allowing you handle his business. Let me explain that second part. You cannot hire another manager as long as I'm your manager, because I can't be looking for business for you and another person is looking for business for you. There are people who have multiple managers, and the risk in that, and I always tell people, I mean, for some people it works, but I always say the risk in that is, if I'm chasing opportunities and the other manager is chasing the same opportunities, we are going to have a conflict with ourselves. That's one. Two, if that manager is already chasing an opportunity and I find a solution to that brand that he's chasing, I know somebody else who can get the situation done, I have to decide if I want to give that opportunity to that other manager, or we have to both sit down and agree that if I'm the one that brings the business, even if you've gone there before, I'm the one that will benefit, or this is how we're going to split it. Instead of you taking the 15%, because I'm the one who sorted the problem, I will take 10 and you take 5. Or I'll take 5 and you take 10 because that's your person. That now creates a new It's unnecessary burden. When you have one manager, even if someone else is bringing in business, you can clearly say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Even if you have to pass it through me, this is how you will I will ensure that you benefit from it. So I'm usually exclusive with my clients. I will work with you as long as you ensure that I am the only person who's representing you. And for that, I need the next thing I'm going to mention, power of attorney. Power of attorney states that you as an artist have given me the power to speak on your behalf. So that when somebody says, who you be, I can say I represent this artist. This artist has given me the power or the right to speak on their behalf. It's so essential to have this, because if you do not have power of attorney, the artist can turn around and say, well, I didn't ask you to go and talk to those people. So when you have power of attorney, you can confidently go into these conversations and speak on behalf of the artist, because you're protecting the interest of the artist. Now, most artists don't give power of attorney because either they don't trust that you will do the work, or they worry that you might go. So what normally happens is you can do what is called a limited power of attorney. A limited power of attorney means that before you take any action in my name, you must speak to me. So that's another thing that is done, where you say you put certain conditions on the power of attorney, so that the manager doesn't do anything that you don't necessarily want. So that's another way of sort of mitigating people going around opening accounts on your behalf, all those types of situations. Because I've seen where artist managers have opened separate accounts and we're siphoning cash, right? So it's important that you can, those things are now done to mitigate that issue. Now, payment for the manager is another thing. How does the manager get paid contractually? How is that put in the contract? One of the ways you do that is to clarify what percent. As I said, remember, you are either a contractor or an employee if you earn a monthly retainer or salary. So that one is pretty straightforward in the contract. I will pay you XYZ amount per month for you to deliver the following services. So if you don't deliver these services over a period of time, I will stop paying you. From a manager's perspective, it is the money you bring in. So you need to now clarify those things. And I will use myself as a case study to explain it to you. Averagely, I earn 20% gross from work I do with my artists. Gross means 20% of the real money, right? Net means 20% after expenses. For most of my clients, it's 20% gross. Now, when the business comes from the artist, let's say somebody calls the artist, I pay the artist 5% from my commission. The reason why I do this is to give the artist an incentive to pass the business to management. Because most times artists want, when they call the artist feels like, they called me. So what I do is I tell the artist, if they call you and you pass it through to me, I will give you 5%. So I earn 15% when the business comes from the artist. If the business comes from a third party, I give that third party, depending on what they want. Some third parties I'm able to negotiate to 7%, some to 5%, but I pay them from my 20%. So if the person bringing the business says, I want 10%, I pay. Now, you don't have to do the same thing. You can negotiate with the artist. But I do this because at every given point in time, I want my artist to earn 80%, at least 80%, right? So I take it from my money, so I negotiate with the person. For some other people, you can negotiate with the artist to say, if this thing happens, I will take 5% from my money and 5% from your own if the person is asking for 10%. If the person is asking for 5%, I'll take 2.5 from your money and I'll take 2.5 from my own. The dynamics vary, but it must be clear. So I stated in my contract that when I bring business, I earn 20%. When business comes from you or through you, I give you 5%, so I earn 15%. When there's a third party requesting for 10%, I give them 10% and I take 10%. That way, the artist feels comfortable knowing that you didn't touch his money and everybody is happy, right? So that's managing your revenue from the business. Now, another thing that most people forget about contracts is expenses. Remember what I mentioned earlier? You're spending money, but you didn't clarify that this money I'm spending, I will collect it back. Oh. Then when it's not time to collect the money, it has piled to 1 million or 300,000. You're not like, okay, you just made 1 million. Can I get 150 of the 300,000? Like, why? But I spent XYZ. No, I thought you were my guy. But you know my guy, I thought you were doing it for me. All of us were investing in this thing, right? So you must be clear. Expenses need to be stated. And you need to state as well that certain amounts would require the agreement of both parties. For example, you could say any expense above 5,000 naira, depending on the level your artist is, will be discussed and agreed. This is where you say to the artist, oh, I'm spending 10K on this thing. Please sign that you approve that I can see. It's like reimbursement. So please confirm that I can spend this money. Once the person says, oh, okay, yes, go ahead. Oh, yeah. So for me, sometimes I write a piece of paper and I'm like, just sign that you agree. Sometimes it's via email. Here is a breakdown of what I'm about to pay for. Please confirm that you approve. Once the person says approved, you know that, okay, if I spend my money, I can take it back because the contract says so. Or you can choose, I'm not spending my money. It's your decision. But sometimes you need to get the work done. So you just pay. So it's important. Now, one very, very essential clause for managers is something called the sunset clause. The sunset clause states that you will continue to earn a certain percent even after the contract has expired for business that you facilitated. Most artists will insist you add that, or most lawyers who know what they're doing will insist that in your sunset clause, you actually add that it is for business that you generate. So what the sunset clause does is, some clauses are 3, 4, 5 years after you can still be earning. But as the years go by, your earning capacity reduces. So for example, let's say you set up a business or you introduce the artist to an opportunity that brings a recurring revenue stream, right? So every year there'll be a certain amount of money that will be made from this platform. Could be an endorsement, could be CRBT opportunity or some new technology that generates income for the artist. So you agree that, okay, I earned this amount of money as your manager from this deal. The sunset clause will protect your interest in the sense that after you leave, if both of you terminate and that opportunity is still running, you can still continue earning money. So I'll give you an example. When I worked with an organization that was able to help market, use unconventional ways to market CRBTs when CRBTs was still the main thing, right? And there was an artist I was working with at the time who I facilitated this business or this opportunity for. In the middle of, after doing that, me and that artist stopped working. But because of my sunset clause, I was able to go to the organization and communicate with the artist that I would like my payment to be made directly to me based on the sunset clause. So I don't want to, normally the payment used to come to me and then I pay the artist. But I said, because you now have new management, I would like your payment to go to your management or you directly, and my percentage to come to me. So we agreed with the organization and we confirmed that, okay, from the first year, I will continue to earn my 15%. From the second year, I will earn 10% or 7.5%. I think it was 7.5%. On the third year, I will earn 5%. And On the 4th year, I will stop earning. So as long as that opportunity kept generating money for this artist, I continued to get paid until I was no longer getting paid. So that is one very essential essential way to think through that, right? It's important that you're able to add that sunset clause to your contract so that you can make money for yourself. So those are very important clauses you must look at. Tomorrow I'll be talking about record labels, and I'll be looking at record contracts because that's specific to record labels and label services. But somebody was asking about endorsement deals. Endorsement deals, I would answer that one quickly now because that's based on a lot of factors. One, popularity, and your popularity must target the audience that the brand is chasing. Two, even if you're not as popular, can you guarantee conversions? When Beverly Naya was running campaigns for Amstel Malta, she only had 62,000 followers. Right? She only had 62,000 followers. So it's not a question of the followership, it's a question of how effective that was. So it's important to clarify. Excuse me. We're going to go on to another thing quickly. Marketing and sales basics for managers. Now, I'm going to tell you in very simple terms. In marketing and sales, for a manager, you are a salesperson. And it is essential that you understand the channels and the avenues through which you're selling your artist content. So social media is one, for example, but you must understand that conversions are the most important things. Engagement is good. Impressions are good, right? How many eyeballs see it? Your followers on social media are not your fans. And as a manager, you must help your artists understand that you need to collect data. You need to engage your audience in a way that ensures that you can lead to conversions. Conversions could mean conversions for another brand, conversions for yourself. How do I engage my audience in a way that they buy music? Where are my audience? I told a story once about an artist who had up to close to 1 million followers. And because he had that number, he was promoting his Spotify link, promoting Spotify, but the Spotify numbers were not going up. He was posting it on his page regularly, stream my music on Spotify, but the numbers were not going up. Until we then checked his analytics and we found that 92% of his followers were in Nigeria, and Spotify is not in Nigeria. So there's no way he was selling a very good platform to the wrong audience. So we knew that one, we needed to sell to Nigerians platforms that they have access to, Boomplay, right, YouTube. But we needed to then build the audience for people who exist in regions where Spotify exists. So we need to start marketing our brand to the UK, to America, to parts of Europe. We need to run ads in those regions. We need to push traffic to those regions. Some investment in marketing directed at those regions. So those are things that you consider, that information helps you do. And it helps you, leads you to now learning how to engage those people differently to lead to conversions. Conversion is that you've gone from, I talked about it and you bought the product. That's a conversion. Engagement is I'm talking to you and we're exchanging. So when I post a picture, somebody talks to me and I respond because I'm trying to lead to a sale. Impression is just what how many times people have seen it. That's just what impressions are. So when you have 4,000 impressions on a post, it just means that it has been seen 4,000 times. But if you talk about reach means it may be seen 4,000 times by 3,200 people. So you reach 3,200 people, but those 3,200 people combined, some people saw it twice, some people saw it 3 times, and altogether it was seen 4,000 times. So it's important that you understand the differences so that when you're marketing and you're trying to sell your product to anybody, you can actually look at it from that perspective and say, okay, I see what I'm trying to achieve. I see that I see how I can talk to the people in America. For example, if you're trying to talk to people in America and then you post at 11 a.m. in Nigeria, they'll be sleeping. Some of them will still be sleeping because of the time difference. So having that information teaches you how to engage those guys. Yeah. Now let's talk about a business plan. Now, what you need to identify in writing a business plan are very, very basic. And I will send you a template you can look at. There are many templates you can look at online, but you must be very careful when you're copying and pasting these things from the internet, because most of these people, you have to learn certain laws, you have to learn certain processes, you need to understand your market, which is why you must do a feasibility report. You must have an understanding of the market that you're existing. Who are the main players? Who would be your competition? Your SWOT analysis. Who are the people you should be talking? What does the government say? How does this affect your industry? All these things are essential when you're developing your business plan, because the job that your business plan is meant to make is to convince an investor or yourself that this project or this business will be successful. If you're unable to do that with your business plan, you may not be able to secure investments, because whoever is coming, the idea of the business plan is you putting your vision in writing in clear and understandable formats, so that somebody who doesn't have your vision can look at it and understand it and see why they should join your vision. So your business plan you need to have an understanding. So you don't just go and copy and paste. You can go and use the template, but you need to understand your market. When the part of the business plan says talk about your competition, you cannot be talking about car wash in San Diego when you're talking about management competition in Lagos. So it's important that you are able to identify what exactly you are doing and how you're offering, how your service is better than any other service. Another thing your business plan must have is your unique selling point. What makes you different? You must also have a financial plan. How much do we need to spend? How much investment do we need? If we need a $2 million investment over 2 years, how much do you need for the first 6 months? How are you planning to execute projects or spend that first investment? What are the milestones you're setting? All these things are essential for your business plan to work. So even if I send you a template, please don't just copy and paste. What you want to do is you want to look at this template and figure out what service you are offering, figure out who your competition is, how you're better than your competition, what makes you different, how you plan to execute the projects, what you need money for, and how you plan to spend it. All these things are extremely important for you to know the best ways to put your business plan together. Proposal writing. Now, once again, there are tons of sample proposals on the internet that you can use at any time. But there are 3 major things to consider in a proposal. What are you offering? What role does the person you are proposing this thing to play? And then what is their benefit? Right? Now, when I say what are you offering, this goes from the idea you have in mind that you're proposing to how it should interest or what problem you are helping this brand solve. So what is the idea? That's what are you offering? What is the idea? So you present your idea in your proposal. Obviously, you introduce yourself, right? So there's the problem. This is the problem that my idea is solving. This is how my idea will solve this problem. Whether it's for a brand, you can say you're trying to customer acquisition. You want to get new customers for your brand, for your bank, your telco company, whatever. That is a problem that you're solving for them. This is your solution to solve that problem for them, right? What do you need them to do? How much do you need from them? Do you need marketing? How does this benefit them? So if I give you the money you're asking, if I give you the things that you're asking for, how does it benefit me? What do I get from it? So if the solution is customer acquisition, I need to see how I can acquire customers with your idea, with your proposal. Most people write proposals based on what they think. And as you grow in the business, you get to the point where you can stop wasting your time. You can actually reach out to a brand and say, I have an idea. This is what I'm trying to achieve. Is your brand going in this direction? The brand, if you have a relationship with the brand manager or the team, they can tell you, this is not the direction we're going, so you don't waste your time. But most of the time, you're going to need to waste your time preparing a document, but you need to start paying attention to what the brand is doing. What is the language that they're communicating right now? Do they run adverts? What do they say? What exercises or activities do you see them doing right now that suggests that what you're bringing will help them achieve that? So you have to identify the problem you are solving. You don't just write proposals and send to people. You have to solve a problem for them. They have to see value in what you're telling them and what you're giving them so that they can now give you money. One of the people who is like a sounding block for my business is my wife. My proposals is my wife. My wife is a former head of trade marketing. So she has received multiple proposals from different people. So you need someone like that is a sounding block that can play devil's advocate. You don't need to have the experience of my wife, but at least the person can play a devil's advocate to ask you, as a business, what are you doing for me? Why should I give you money? You're asking me for 10 million naira. Why should I give you 10 million? Right? So someone needs to be asking you those questions. So when I write proposals, I usually give it to my wife to read. And she goes to the benefit area and she looks at what we're trying to do and she's like, babe, this doesn't make any sense. My wife has told me that one before. That one, the first day she told me, it brought my chest a little. She's like, I don't understand. This doesn't make. But she was looking at it from the eye of a trade marketing manager, and she's saying, I don't see the value in this. I don't see. And so, if I cannot explain it to my wife, how do I explain it to the brand? How do I convince them that this product I'm bringing, or this service I'm bringing, or this event I'm bringing, or whatever it is I'm bringing, will help them with customer acquisition, or will help them with marketing, or will help them be seen in a certain light based on what I see that they're trying to achieve. Because bear in mind, sometimes the person you're talking to that is a devil's advocate doesn't have all the information about the brand. So when you're explaining it, you also now need to show why what you're doing helps the brand achieve something, because that's what you'll be required to do when you talk to the brand anyway. So even if they know what they're trying to achieve, how you're presenting it needs to show them how you're helping them achieve it. So your proposal needs to have those elements involved. Solving what problem are you solving? What's your concept? What's the solution you're bringing? Who are you? What is the solution? Then what do you need from us? Then, and I say this because a lot of the time, people think that there's one way to write proposals. No. And you have to also understand the people you're dealing with when you're writing proposals. There are people that, well, the majority now don't have the time to read 25-page proposals. Some people just need 10 pages, be straight to the point, tell me what you want to say, and keep it moving. I don't have time to read 25 pages. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. I need to open this book and have an idea of what you're trying to do and what you need from me. So it's important that you're able to present your information in very clear communication. As I said earlier, be very precise about what you're trying to say to a brand. So that's what your proposal should do. It's a proposal, it's an idea. You are proposing a solution to somebody. You shouldn't be stressing them to do that, especially if you need them to give you money to achieve it. So when you're writing your proposal, you're trying to talk to a brand to bring your artist on board as an ambassador, or or you're trying to get funding for an event, you need to first of all identify if you're solving a problem for the person you're asking for money from. It's not a charity. So you need to be able to convince them that what you are doing is in their benefit. So it's important that you're able to put these three things in perspective. What is the who am I and what solution I'm providing? What do I need from you? And how does it benefit you if you join on board, if you come on board? These are the benefits that it comes to you. So usually in terms of an outline, the skeletal form of a proposal goes thus. So you have your introduction. Then after your introduction, you can even write in your introduction what the problem is. So you're introducing your business and you're introducing the problem. This is the challenge. Then the next step is your solution. This is the challenge one, your introduction, and this is the challenge. And then two, this is the solution I'm bringing. Now, usually introduction and the problem were separated. But as I said, nobody is reading 25 pages. So you need to figure out ways that you're putting the problem in the introduction. So in Nigeria, there is XYZ problem based on the following issue, right? For example, this training program, when I'm writing a proposal, my statement is, in Nigeria, there are over 174 universities, but not one of them offers music business management as a course. So that's a problem because we are 200 million plus people, right? And 53% of our population is between 18 or 16 and 45. About 15 and 50, right? So that is the working age. We have 53% between the age, very active people. Actually, between 15 and 35, a large percentage of our population is between that age, right? Over half of it. So if you're thinking about it from that angle, if those people are doing that and there's a scarcity of employment or jobs, that means that by creating knowledge for people to go set up their businesses or to pursue a career and develop a career path for themselves, we would be helping solve that problem. So the problem is there are universities. The solution for me is that I can offer those business management training based on my experience and my work done. So if I'm bringing a Sterling Bank as a sponsor, this is what I'm telling them. This is why I can assure them that when I announce it, a number of people will register, and if they sponsor, they can benefit from the PR that comes from it. So you see what I did there? I introduced myself and I introduced the problem. Then the next phase is to introduce a solution. This is how I'm solving the problem, or this is how I plan to solve the problem with your help. Then the next case in the outline is this is the process, right? This is the format that we're using. So I explain what the program is and how we're going to be teaching classes. How many classes are we going to have? How many people do we anticipate to attend? Who are the people that will be teaching those classes? All that information is provided in the proposal. Then the next phase is the budget. What is the budget? How much will it cost to execute this project? Right? Is there a breakdown in Excel? It's attached to this email or attached to this document. So that's the next step. Then the next step is benefits to the brand. What are the marketing opportunities or marketing and advertising opportunities if I sponsor this event? What is the solution you're helping me solve? Are you helping me reach people? Are you helping me create conversions? What are you doing for the brand? So that is where you highlight it. So you've told them the problem, you've told them the solution, you've told them what it will cost. And now you're telling them what they will benefit. For some other people, they put the team. Who are the people executing this project? So you put the profile of the people that will be executing the project. What that does is it gives those people some sort of confidence. So you say this person is an engineer, or this person is an event organizer. This person has been doing events for the last 20 years. They've done XYZ event for Whiskey and Davido and all these people. So that when the brand is reading, they're like, okay, this person has competent people to execute this project. The job of the proposer is to convince the reader or the target that you can deliver a job. So you're doing everything within your power to make it easy for them to read, to make it easy for them to understand, to make it easy for them to see how you're solving the problem, and to make it easy for them to give you money. So those are the things that, in terms of becoming a manager in the industry, those are the things you must consider when you're doing that. And that is the end of the class. We're going to go into, I'm going to try and answer as much of your questions. Have I missed anything from the list I sent?
No, I don't think so.
Fantastic.
I don't think you missed anything. It's wonderful. Fantastic, actually.
Fantastic. Great. Okay, so let me look at the questions. How do I create a plan for my client, for my talent? I think I've answered that question. Someone is asking, what's the standard structure for building management team? Who are the group of people that are needed as a team to manage an artist's career? So the first thing I would say is get a lawyer. For artists, I tell artists, before you even get a manager, get a lawyer. And I tell managers, get your own lawyer. Because even with the management contract, you need a lawyer to look at it for you, right? My contracts were drafted by my lawyers. I didn't copy and paste it. What I do normally with contracts is I will sit with the artist and we will discuss terms. I usually do a terms of engagement email. So after we've spoken, I understand what we're doing together. I send you an email outlining our discussion. And it is based on that discussion that a contract is now developed. That's how it works. So you need a lawyer. You need an assistant. Now, for an artist, there are two major types of managers, or three major types of managers. There is the business manager. Most of the time, the business manager handles the money. He's the one who pays staff, who advises you on investment. They're usually accountants or investment bankers. So it's important that your business manager understands how to manage money. Then there's your personal manager. That's the person who handles the day-to-day activities and the day-to-day roles. He's different from an assistant. He's not an assistant. He's not the guy who looks for your socks for you or goes to buy you food. He's the guy who understands how all the daily processes are working. And he's the one who helps you execute these projects. He's the one who does the meetings and creates opportunities for you. That's the manager, right? The business manager is the guy who handles finances. He's a money person. He's the one who pays salaries. He's one who ensures that your money is being managed properly so that you can sustain your career in the industry. So those are the teams that I feel are very essential to have. Another part that you can have, that's from the business perspective, but also you need an A&R for your artists when you're building your team. Because one of the mistakes people make in the industry is that a lot of A&Rs think that they're managers and a lot of managers think that they're A&Rs. They're two different jobs. And if you're an A&R and a manager, it is important that you're able to clarify when you are an A&R and when you are a manager. When I talk about...
It was an A&R.
An A&R is somebody who's responsible for the creative process or creative development of the artist's career. The talent manager is the one who's responsible for the business development of the artist's career. The A&R is responsible for the creative development. So what the A&R does, the A&R is the guy who says, this is the producer you should work with. This sound works with your voice. This is the collaboration you should do. This is the kind of music you should make. The A&R does that. They direct the process of creating the music. The manager is the one who then takes that creation, right?
Sorry, please, I wanted to ask that.
Yeah.
Sorry, please, I wanted to ask that. We can't add both the A&R
Sorry?
an individual to do both. Is it possible for an individual to do both the A&R?
I already said that.
For just an individual?
Yes, I got that. I got your question.
Oh,
right. I already said that, right? I said you can do the two, but it's two different jobs. And you must be clear that it is two. Remember when we talked about clarifying your services to the artist? It is important that you identify that the role of a manager, a talent manager, is different from the role of an A&R. So even if you can perform as an A&R, it is important that you are clear that it is a different role, because the A&R earns differently. In labels, the A&R earns a salary and earns points depending on how popular he is as an A&R. So he earns points from being able to help the artist create. So they say, okay, we'll give you 2 points from this album, depending on how popular you are. We'll give you X amount of points from the creation of this music. But as an A&R that works for the label, you earn a living. Independent A&Rs will charge you a fee. Either they charge you a straight fee and say, okay, pay me off and we keep it moving, or pay me X amount and give me X points, or I will take X amount of points. Points are percentages from your royalties. Yeah. So that is clarity from what role the A&R is playing. And sometimes the A&R can write music and the A&R will earn from publishing as a writer. So there are multiple revenue streams. And I'll discuss some of these tomorrow. But there are multiple revenue streams, and I'll discuss this actually tomorrow and the day we're talking to composers, right? There are multiple revenue streams that are available, but you must be clear. So as an A&R, you're responsible for the creative process, but you must recognize that it's a different job, and you must be clear and be happy that if I'm going to earn a commission as manager, you have to decide if I'm earning as a manager and A&R, or if I'm earning simply as a manager and keeping my revenue as an A&R separate. So that is important. So you need an A&R to start the process. You need a manager to actually sell the artist and sell the music. So those are people I think you need on your team. As a new person in the industry, how do you get the first client? How do you get your first artist to manage? Well, so the first way to do it is to actually start working with somebody. So you can intern, you can work with a company, a management company, so that you can hone your skills and develop yourself. As you remember, as I said, when artists see you working and trust that you can deliver, it becomes easy for them to trust you to work with them. Some other people, how they come into the industry is their friend is an artist and they decide that, okay, I'm looking for a manager, will you manage me? That's how most people come into the industry. For some other people like me, how I was brought into the industry, somebody came to me to say, I would like you to manage me. I got a call, MI was looking for a manager, and they said, okay, Godwin, have a meeting. The mistake people make, and I've told this story a lot, one of the mistakes that happened with that conversation was Osage, who's Timaya's manager, excuse me, told me about the conversation with MI. But the thing was, MI was looking for an assistant, not a manager. So the first meeting MI and I had a job. I was PR and marketing manager where I was in the company. So I wasn't hungry. I was looking for his work, right? But what happened was we sat in this meeting in Silverbird and I started asking him questions about his career. What's your plan for the next 5 years? So basically, I didn't sound like someone that was coming to interview for PA work, right? And so that kind of confused the conversation a bit. It was later on that MI called me and said, look, I wasn't looking for a manager because I have a manager, but you know what, can you join my management team? Because I think you have some things to offer, right? That's how I started working with MI as his manager. And when the other manager left, I took on the responsibility full on. So there are different ways. It's either by referral, that's one way, by the fact that you have somebody who is in the industry as an artist and is becoming popular, and then you're forced to play that role, or you start building your career by working with a company that that manages artists, and you work with some of the artists that they manage, and you actually deliver on work and gradually build your reputation until you're able to take on your own client, or until somebody reaches out to say, I see that you work with Godwin Tom, or I see that you work with Asa Sika, I see that you work with XYZ person, can you come and manage me? It happens a lot. Even some people that go through my training, just by going through my training, already start getting requests for management. So there are multiple ways that you can get that done. So that's one. Nobody's asking, Unique challenges that may come with managing unconventional artists. I mean, unique challenges will be mostly in your marketing, and how you direct your conversations, or how you segment your audience, how you identify who the target audience is and selling directly to them. So unconventional artists are people, I would assume, that are not pop artists. They don't sing how Whiskey sings or David sings. They're like your Bezes and your Johnny Drills. Those people are not necessarily considered popular musicians, or they don't make popular music, but it's quite niche. And for that, you need to define your target audience and sell directly to them. Don't try to force yourself into trying to be in Wizkid's, to compete with Wizkid's music. Instead, how do you find your audience so that you can sell to them directly and generate revenue for them? Another thing that you face is with revenue, right? And revenue can be generated in multiple ways. If I have 2,000 faithful followers, faithful fans, who will give me 20,000 naira every year, that's 40 million naira. So you have to think about it from a perspective of, how do I convert these followers to fans, and these fans to paying fans, super fans? How do I change these people to people who not only like my music, but are willing to buy my music, are willing to buy merchandise, right? And that's a gradual process that you develop. So my advice to you is focus more on the marketing and ensuring that you're reaching the target audience that you should be getting to. Why are the things we should consider? What are the things we should consider when creating a marketing plan for our artists? As I said, target audience. Those three things I said with regards to your planning are the things you should consider for your marketing plan as well, and direct it towards how you're reaching. What mediums are you going to use to reach your audience? So the music, what kind of music are we making? What kind of people listen to the kind of music we're making, right? Then the second thing is, what kind of artist? Does the artist personality fit the music we're selling? Because that's very important. There's some artists that have to be certain people so that they can sell the music they're selling. There's some artists who are the music they sell. And it's important that you're able to identify that and sell that brand to the people you're selling it to. And the third thing is the audience. You have to identify who the audience is so that you know how to talk to them. As I said, if your fans are in America and you're in Nigeria, you cannot be posting things at 10 a.m. in the morning because they'll be sleeping. You want to be engaging them at times when you know they'll be awake and active so that they can engage you as well. So that's important. So the music, the artist, and the audience, and building your planning around these three different elements is essential. How do you get events for your artists, interviews, and opportunities? Usually, people jump the gun with this one. People always run to the artist. People run to try and get shows without doing any marketing. If you develop a new product, the first thing you do is you market the product. You test it out. You engage people. You say, oh, how is this how does this work? Right? That's what you do generally, Abby. They test it out and then they market to people. They look at the target audience that they've tested it out on, the people that are responding, who is it made for, the price point we've created, who is this thing for, right? The people that are buying some of these expensive soaps, right? There's some liquid soaps that they sell for 5,000 naira. It's not the same people that are buying Lux bar soap. It's not the same people. So the marketing is different. So it's important that you're able to market to the audience that will, because when you talk about shows, the reason why most promoters will not call you is because, one, they probably already have people who will fill up, who will be fillers. So people who perform before the main artist comes. Either that, or they don't think you bring any value. So what I usually advise artists is build your audience. You have the platforms now, there's social media to use and build your audience. Build your own audience. Gradually engage them. Show them what you can do. Show some live performances. Show some studio sessions. Show them that you are actively doing what you're doing, and be consistent with the music you create. When you're doing that and building that audience, then you can now start testing events. You can say, okay, I have an event for 20 people. If 20 people show up, or if 30 people show up, Then maybe next time do an event for 50 people. If 100 people show up, maybe next time do an event for 120 people. Grow your audience gradually and organically. Don't buy followers, because when you buy followers, you cannot track engagement. This is important. So when you are doing these things and developing these opportunities for your artists, what starts happening is that as people engage you more, you become slightly more popular every single day, by week, by month, by quarter, by year. And as you become more popular, demand for you increases. And as demand for you increases, you can now exploit it for these events that you want to create. This is the reason why some brands will spend a year developing an artist. That development also includes building the audience for the artist, engaging, finding who the core fans are before they start amplifying and spreading to everybody. It's a gradual process. So when a promoter says, why should I book you for a show? What he's really asking is, if I pay you, will you pull 200 people or 1,000 people to the show? If the answer is no, that means I'm just dashing you money. Because the only reason why I will pay you is because when I pay you and you tell people that you are coming to my event, people will show up. And when people show up, they pay and I can recoup my money. It's a business. So these are very important things to understand. So when you're talking about finding opportunities for your artists, yes, you can go and pay somebody to do an interview, but it is not demand. It's not in demand. You didn't create a demand. You paid your way in. And what happens with that is, over time, people move on. When okay, this new artist is in radio, okay, fantastic. Yeah, I will play me my whiskey, I will play my Johnny G, I will play me my, because that's what will happen. They don't know you. You've not introduced yourself to them, so that when people talk, they're like, okay, I want to know more about this guy that I've heard his music or that I've seen his performance. There's no reference. So when there's no reference, there's nothing that they can hold on to with the conversation. There's nothing reminding them of what you said. So my advice to you is, build your reputation, start small, engage your audience, build your own audience, so that when you tell your audience that you're releasing music, they go and buy. When you tell them that you're going to an event, they show up. When you tell them that you are organizing an event, they show up. Also, my situation is I'm being employed by a record label, but I saw the need to manage the artist since he has none at the moment. Is this a conflict? How can it be resolved? So what you can do is you can still work, as I said earlier, as long as you recognize where your allegiances lie. It is important for you to be clear about that yourself as well. The conflict of interest will exist if you start protecting the interest of the artist over the label that is paying you. That's where the problem will start, because you work for the label and you're identifying that there's a need. So the role you're playing now, you also need to define it from the perspective of the label. You need to be clear that, okay, as a label, we're doing this for this artist because the artist doesn't have management. So maybe what you want to do is say, artists, go and find management that we can work with. So that's one solution. If you now say, oh, I want to focus on managing the artist and doing the work of manager, but I work for the label, that's a different thing. At least the label will know that if there's an issue, you will address it in the interest of the label. So the artist can tell you, let's go and do one show in the corner, and you're like, oh yeah, let's go and do it. Let's not tell you. That's you. That's you getting into trouble with your label. And I'm not saying that even if you work with the artist, you should do that. You should follow the terms of the contract. But your role will be to protect the interests of the artist if you work for the artist. But in this case, you work for the label, and therefore you must protect the interest of the label unless you don't want to do that anymore. So you need to clarify that with your label and let them know. Fantastic. How do you get endorsements for artists? The same thing. Market yourself, create value, offer value to the brand that you're working with, right? So a typical example, Beverly Nye and Nivea. We reached out to Nivea. We saw the challenge they were going through in Ghana with the bleaching thing and issue. And we wrote them a proposal to say, look, Beverly has been using Nivea since he was a child, and we can work with your brand to show that you can have great skin while using Nivea products. So we approached them with a few ideas with our documentary, the skin documentary, and we felt like if Nivea supported a documentary that talked about people being the best version of themselves, that they would even get a better view public wise, it would be good for them, right? And that is what we did. So we approached them, and then we ended up shooting a commercial, running a campaign. They sponsored our documentary, the premiere. They did a bunch of things. So those are things you do. So you build your reputation to a point where you can offer a solution to a brand, whether it is extending their marketing campaign, whether it is helping them sell bottles of beer, whatever it is, you must be offering value. And how you offer the value is you can market yourself and show that you can offer that value. What we did with Amstel Malta with the same Beverly Naya was we went to them and we said, look, you're doing the Why Add More campaign. We can help you amplify it off and online. And they asked us how, and we told them we're going to run a campaign for Why Add More for people to compete online, which is activity online. And then we're going to hold a physical event where we're going to reward the winners. So all those people are going to come. And then she had 64,000 followers. So we did a survey and we said, if you are, tell us where you are in the country, in the world. And we got over 474 comments. 108 of those comments were in Lagos. And so what we did was we contacted those people and told them we'd like to invite you to a party in Lagos, right? And then we ran a campaign. So what we did was we promised Amstel Malta that we could pull 200 people into a venue where 200 people will be talking about Amstel Malta. So they'll be talking about Amstel Malta before the day, during the day, and after. And then we created activities to support those things, to make sure that those things were possible. So we said, create your own scenario why people should not add more, right? So we took the commercial she did as an example, and different people came up with hilarious skits. There was a guy who was eating a bar, and while he was eating, his mother came and added a bar, and he was like, why add more? There was a guy who was washing clothes, and he had, people started creating ways. So what we did was we told them we're announcing the winner at the party. And then at the party, we told people to go and take pictures from the Amstel Malta booth that we set up there. So when you take a picture, the picture that comes out that can be sent to your phone has the Amstel Malta logo, and then you can post it and say, why add more? The people with the most conversations or the most engagement by the end of the party will win 5K or 50K. We did these things in ways that people felt like they were engaged during the day. And what happened? There was massive engagement around the Why Add More campaign. More hashtags came up, more posts came up because of those activities. Beverly only had 62,000 followers. So it wasn't an issue of she had 1 million followers. No, what we did was we identified her audience and were able to then create that thing that benefited the brand through that. Yeah. So that's how you utilize your value to sell. Somebody asked, what's a premium brand? A premium brand is basically a brand that is sold to an exclusive audience, right? So this particular brand may not fit a mass market campaign. So Beverly Naya, most of the conversations we've had from Nivea, Amstel Malta is a premium brand because it's a low sugar malt drink. So it's a specific audience. Not everybody wants, people who care about their health and stuff like that offer it, and it's slightly more expensive than Malta Guinness or than your regular malt, right? Maltina. So these are some things that, because of the target audience, the person who's promoting and engaging on their behalf has to fit into it. So from Nivea to Schweppes campaign, Schweppes was targeting mass market as well. However, they had exclusive parties where they had mixers, right? And so Beverly Naya came in for those parties. This was called the effervescence parties, right? But those were targeting high-end individuals in certain environments that they wanted to reach to engage the brand, right? So she was that person that was called because they knew that she could reach those HNIs and she would understand them. They would understand her, right? Because she connects with them. So that's what a premium brand is. How do you get opportunities to learn? Well, as I said earlier, you can intern, you can offer yourself for events. So you go to events, you see how other managers are treating their artists, how they manage, how they get ready for shows, how they prepare those things. All these things are ways you can learn about the job. So that's pretty much straightforward that I can tell you. You can read about it, but reading about it, I always tell people it's the different thing when you do it because you can see real life scenarios. And most of the time, because there are not enough people in the industry that are telling the story, their own story. Like I'm telling my story. I have an ebook series that tells my story, right? Called The Journey of a Learner. Not everybody is doing that. And it makes it difficult for people to find where to reference these things from. So if more people are telling stories, you can reference that. But it's never the same thing compared to when you are experiencing it yourself in person, right? So I always tell people, even if you read about it, it gives you a theoretical idea, but practically, you need to still know how it works. If you're put in a scenario, how do you get out of it? You need to see someone get out of that scenario for you to now know, okay, that's one way to get out of it. And sometimes when you get into those scenarios yourself, you're able to create new solutions for yourself as well. Can we get a structure plan to help a new artist grow to a stage? Now, the reason why I don't give you a plan is because you need to I've given you the basics, the most important parts of the plan. What you need to do is then build around that. So, an example, music. What kind of music are we making? This determines the kind of audience that you're trying to target. This determines the type of brand you're developing for your artist. If you're a Johnny Drill, then you know that you need to target babes. And maybe one of your marketing strategy is to once in a while stand in front of a computer and sing a love song because girls love that. And you need to amplify that on social media to ensure people are seeing it, girls are seeing it, the target audience can see it, right? So those are things that you do. You have to then build your plan around that. So a template for that isn't necessarily going to help you. What will help you is an understanding of how to utilize that to talk to the audience. Is it okay, as I mentioned about the audience, who is the audience? Who is the market that you're trying to target? Understanding who the market is tells you where you should be focused on, who you should be talking to, what radio stations you want to focus on when you're engaging. All of these things are essential. So that's what I would advise. To a stage where the artist is blown, what are the hows? The truth of the matter is the hows differ depending on how you are approaching it. And it's important that you're able to, as I said, identify these three. Once you identify these three things, can be seen in multiple dimensions, which is the reason why I'm giving you the core of it, right? So if you know what the core is, you can now work around that core to find the solution for your artist. And talking about blown, not every artist will blow, right? Some artists will make a lot of money, more money than others, but they might not be as popular as some of the artists. I know a lot of artists that are the noisiest, the most known, but they're not making as much money as a lot of artists. There are artists that are making a lot of noise, but do not make as much money as MI. And MI is not everywhere anymore. He's no longer considered the top artist in the country. There was a time when he was the top artist in the country. He's no longer considered that, right? So it's important that you're able to identify what your goals are and work accordingly, so you know what is important for you and how you want to get to that point. That's what my advice would be for you. Can you tell some marketing strategies and plans to promote an artist and music to the market? I think I've mentioned one with Beverly. I'll give you two other examples. When we were trying to build Waja's social media audience, what we did was we started developing pillars. So pillars were the things that would hold her brand together. There were music, there was music, fitness, social work, and fashion. Those are the four things that we built her brand around in 2013. In 2013, Waja had 25,000 followers on her social media. By 2015, she had 356,000. Right now, Waja is 1.4 million followers, but her followership is built around those three solid brands. One is the when she started doing her fitness programs, a lot of people started following. Right now, she's doing her dancing, which is part of fitness, but a lot of people that dance are beginning to follow her. So it's when you identify what it is that you're doing, you build an audience around that. So when we did the fashion, when we did the fitness, she got to a particular weight where fashion was now interesting. So she started doing fashion, and a lot of magazines wanted to cover her, right? So we hired a stylist to help her with her fashion. Then when we did that, we now moved into social work, which is when she started doing a lot of work with one campaign and a bunch of people and some of her own campaigns as well. And everything was driven by the music. So what then happened was at any given point in time, whenever she's engaging her fans, she's engaging them on those major pillars. She knows that there are fans who love her music. There are some fans who don't necessarily like the music, but they like that she does social work. There are people who don't necessarily follow the social work, but they follow the fitness and the fashion. So it's important that you're able to identify and do that. Now, when we did that by 2015, we had built an audience and then we announced something called a Waje Christmas. And what we did was we told people, this is what you can get. Right? Tell Waje what you want for Christmas and we'll try and get you what you want, right? We're using it to promote our website. We got over 100,000 impressions in 4 days and we got 2,600 people telling her what you wanted, because when you go on her website, there was a pop-up that tells you, tell Waje what you want for Christmas. So you have to actually write your name, phone number, email address, your data. We collected data. And what we did with that data was that we put it into an Excel document that we could now identify and categorize people, whether we're categorizing based on female, on gender, who is female, who is male, or we're categorizing based on age, who are older, who are younger, or we're categorizing based on location, where are these different people. And then we went to Bailey's and said to them, we have women between the ages of 21 and 35 that are working in the following places that we can actually do an activation for you. So while Waje was shooting The Voice in South Africa, she was running an online campaign for Bailey's. And when she arrived in Nigeria, she went on a 3-state tour to promote the Bailey's brand. All of this was paid for. So you see how we can create, how we converted followership to money. So that's one. Those are the ways that I can answer that question. Will your manager earn from a business that has a sunset clause as well? So this is where the conversation comes in. So when you're bringing in a new manager, and the manager and your outgoing manager has a clause, bear in mind what the contract usually states. If your lawyer has sense, if the artist lawyer has sense, what it will say is for business that that manager has brought. So the new manager is expected to go and bring new business, right? So if you're expected to bring new business, you shouldn't be looking at what is already there. Now, even if you're looking at what is already there as a recurring income, there has to be communication that there's somebody that brought that is still earning from that. So you need to go bring us new opportunities so that you can earn from that as well. So you can still earn, because there are agreements where there are situations, I've been in a situation where the new manager had to manage some of the activities of those things that I was doing, that I was earning this from the sunset clause. And they had to call me in to say, you know, this guy is doing XYZ. And I said, well, you can, for the manager, what you can do is you can pay him a lower percentage until, as my percentage decreases, his percentage can increase because he will be the one managing it. So if I'm earning 10% from it and his percentage is 15, he can earn 5% from it, right? When I'm earning 5%, he can earn 10%. Then when I stop earning, then he can start earning fully. So that's another option that you can explore. Did you guys enjoy this class?
Yes, we did. We did. Thank you so much.
Is it what you're
That was
thinking?
amazing.
Yeah, I enjoyed the class, but I
It's
feel like
worth it.
it was very one-sided. Like it's not. If it was a general class, maybe people would be talking and having stuff to say. But
Let me
it was more
explain.
like,
Nice.
So the first thing you must understand is this class was specifically designed for managers. There's a class for artists, and what I will say to artists is to protect the interest of the artist. What I've said today is to protect the interest of the manager. which is why when I talked about the contracts and talked about developing your career, I was talking about you. How do you build a career? How do you, outside the artist career you're developing, how do you build a career and sustain yourself? When I'm talking to the artist, I'll be telling him how he or she should build a career for themselves, what questions they should be asking you, the manager, right? So that's how the classes are being developed, right? So that I can speak, because if I'm trying to speak to everyone, then I can't do that in one class. Because I would have to, first of all, identify the situation of the manager. And then, so for those of you who have paid for the full class, you'll be able to see, or for the full program, you'll be able to see all the conversations, right? From the composer side down to, you can see everything. But I can't tell everything because we've just spent 3 hours, right? And we're still talking. And this is just on managers. So imagine if I had to talk about composers today and talk about performance and talk about labels, we will sleep here. So that's the reason why it's broken into those 4 days. And that's the reason why I'm focusing on specific people so that it's easy for you to digest and then be able to say, okay, this is what it means. So when we talk about artists, you'd be able to see the perspective as well of the artist. So when the artist is talking right now, most of the people asking questions are asking questions about their problems, right? So managers are saying, how do I earn more money? How do I find opportunities for my artists? When you see the artist class, the questions will be different. The questions will be, so how do I need a manager? Right? The questions will be different. What do I do if I don't have a manager? So it's important that we're doing that. So that's why it may seem like it's one-sided, but it's not. It's us focusing on the different elements of the industry. So I have a request to ask of you guys. One of the things I want you guys to do for me today. So the hashtag for this class is hashtag MBB with GT. Let me write that. That's hashtag MBB with GT. And what I want you guys to do for me is, whether it's on Twitter or on Instagram, please write 3 things that you learned from this class. You don't have to tell the world everything you learned. 3 things that you learned from this class. We're going to create something called a bubble for every class. So 3 things you learned from this class. If 15 of you or 17 of you are stating these different things that you've learned from the class and using the hashtag MBB with GT, what it would do is we would be able to expand the knowledge that we've gotten here, even if it's limited information we're putting out, we'll be able to expand that knowledge to a wider audience of people to see what we're learning as well. So you teach one, to each one teach one, right? So those are the things that I want you guys to do. So you take, whether it's a picture of the class or a picture of your screen or a picture of yourself or a picture of me, whatever you want to do, the idea is post it on your social media, Instagram or Twitter, and state what you learned today from the class and use the hashtag so that I can find it and put on my stories. Yeah, so please, if you can put that together and do that within, I mean, today would be nice so that I can focus on the class for tomorrow. Someone just asked, speaking of contracts, an artist I manage has a song with someone, but the other artist isn't interested in the song, but my artist had a significant impact on the song. So I'm trying to get the song from the other artist and make it fully. How do I go about this? This is a composer conversation. But what I would say to you is this: with regards to taking music, if the person who created the music is refusing to give it to you, I mean, the composer is not always the performer. So if you go there, what you can say to the person is, you will keep all your composition rights since you no longer have any interest in the song, but you wrote it. So you can keep your composition rights on the song. We'll sign a split sheet for you as a writer and a composer of the song, right? But we will then keep, so whatever we have written as composers, we will keep our own composition or publishing, but the masters will now belong to us. Some people might tell you they want you to pay for it. That's where a conversation might not come in, where you are splitting royalties, masters royalties for the music. So it depends on what they're asking for. So if they're informed enough, they will ask you for these things. They will tell you, okay, if I no longer own the song and it's two of us, then what percentage of royalties are you giving me? And I keep my royalty, I keep my publishing of the song. Sometimes you might just ask the person and they might give it to you. You never know. But if they give it to you, ensure that the contract is signed showing that they've given it to you. And we'll discuss this tomorrow. Actually, we'll discuss this next week on composition, on composers, how to ensure that you're avoiding the situation. Because if I create the music, I own it. That's who you pay publishing to. I hope I've answered that question. What are the peculiarities to expect between managing an independent artist and a label artist? Well, you should be focused on what the label is supposed to be doing for you. And these are things that we're going to address tomorrow. Williams, are you part of the people who are doing all the classes? Hello? Hello, Williams? You can type. Are you part of if you're doing all the classes, then you would get to hear about labels tomorrow. So so we'll discuss labels tomorrow, and you can be part of that, and you hear answer all the questions regarding to interaction with labels. Because as much as you want to talk, when you talk about the manager's interaction with the label, remember your job is to protect the interest of the artist, right? So it is important that whatever it is the artist is getting, whether it's from a label, the label, when you sign a contract with a label, there are obligations of the label, right? So it's important that you're able to ensure that the label is fulfilling their end of the bargain. And this is where you get your lawyers involved, so that if the label is not doing what they're supposed to do, ensure that your artist is doing what he's supposed to do. Because when fight starts, the label will also point out the things that the artist hasn't done. So that's my advice. To make things move faster, if you're not your job to manage the artist, bear in mind as you work with the artist and the label, you're trying to ensure the label does their job. If they're not doing their job, you want to document the process of them not doing their job and go ahead and do your job. If the label isn't delivering, you need to deliver, and that's the best advice I can give you. And so that when you want to move on from the label and want to clarify your stance, you would have enough ammunition to say to the label, you cannot get involved because you didn't do the job that you were supposed to do. So anyway, I think we've had a great day. My throat is dry. I forgot to carry water, but I couldn't stand up. So we will see tomorrow. For those of you who register for the full program, for those of you who just registered for this class, thank you very much. Hopefully you would have the resources and the ginger to register for the rest of the classes. But if this is the end of the road, thank you very much for being a part of this program. Appreciate you very, very much. Thank you very much, guys. So please, I look forward to your hashtags on Twitter and Instagram so that I can talk about it.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, guys, take care.
Thank you very much.
No problem.